questions, metaphysical questions, questions you guys have about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you guys are watching the live replay and you guys would like your own natal chart reading, a progress natal chart reading, synastry reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. You guys can go on my website, select on the readings tab, then an email window should pop up. You guys can send me an email and we will go from there. Welcome to everyone joining. Hey, Merry to all. Yes, Merry Christmas to all those celebrating. Happy holidays. How are you guys doing? What should we talk about today? Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Welcome. Hey everyone, hey Mystic Journal. Oh, thank you. I love pink. Pink is my favorite color. Hey Mateo, how are you doing? Hey Concerned. What's new? You said a YouTube creator in Britain was broadcasting a live celebration of winter solstice from Stonehenge. So cool, so interesting. I was looking into Stonehenge around, I wanted to go for the 8-day portal like this year, first like to go to Stonehenge, and it was so interesting because when I looked on their website, they said that they're closed during summer solstice. So I guess a lot of people started going, it became a trend, and maybe it was like overloaded around summer solstice. So that's good that that person got in. Maybe it's different for winter solstice. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. What should we talk about today? If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What would you guys like to know about? Welcome to everyone joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I don't do general readings. I only answer questions about your natal charts, astrology overall, metaphysics, that whole world. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Oh, no way, they were allowed to touch the stones. How many people were there at that event? I'm so curious. If you do feel like you're being attacked spiritually, all you have to do is raise your vibration, but also sometimes you kind of have to see, is it someone that's within your inner circle? You said you talk about the 7 chakras. You saw a woman who said that we may have as many as 100 energy points in our bodies to work with. Yes, you said thoughts. Yes, it's true. I've actually heard we might have up to thousands within our body, like energy centers and energy points. So there's a lot, absolutely. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? Yes, happy winter solstice, everyone. It was just winter solstice, at least in the northern hemisphere, this past weekend. Welcome to everyone joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? What are you guys doing for the holidays? Are you guys doing anything fun? You said it was difficult to say, but easily hundreds. They were engaged in ceremonies and drumming. Wow, nice, getting in tune with Mother Earth. Oh, that's so awesome. That is really cool. Yes, that's definitely, I think that's one of the energy centers within the world. I'd have to double check because they have the different like energy centers within the world of where you can travel to. Welcome to everyone joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? What are you guys up to? Where are you tuning in from? Welcome to everyone joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? Thank you for the likes. Are there concepts, any concepts, themes, topics, anything within the metaphysical world you guys would like to know about? If not, your natal charts, astrology overall. Hey everyone, welcome. How are you guys doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What would you guys like to know about today? Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? Hey, Nicholas. Is there anything you would like to know about your natal chart, astrology overall, metaphysics, the metaphysical world? Thank you. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Hey, Mary. Yes, I do readings. So if you guys would like your own natal chart reading or synastry reading or progress natal chart reading, that's all going to be on my website underneath the readings tab. You guys can click on my website. So you might not see it right now because we're on live, but you can also see it in the about page as well. And then you guys can go on my website. You can go under the readings tab. You guys can select which reading you guys would like. And then an email window should pop up. When an email window pops up, you guys can send me an email and we'll go from there. You guys can tell me which reading you guys would like. I also do business consultations. I don't usually advertise that, but yes, I do business consultations as well. So that's also on my website. So I do business consultations, like I do like a 1-hour Zoom meeting where we can talk about anything you guys would like in terms of starting your own business. So I do that. And then I actually have like a business guidance program that's 3 months long as well, if you guys are interested. So that's going to be under the business guidance tab. And those are pretty much my services for now. Hey, Eliza, how are you doing? I'm doing well. How are you? Mystic Journal, you said, hey, oh my gosh, Esperanza, hey, yes, you guys know I love my pink. You said, do I think following the white light at death is a soul trap? Yes, I've heard that actually from people that apparently it is. I mean, can't confirm that, right? How would we know? But I've heard from individuals that if you follow the white light, you're actually going back into the reincarnation tunnel and you're being born again. That's what the light is. So it's really interesting because also if we look at like Lucifer is like the god or like the deity of light. So it's really interesting that all of that connects in one way, shape, or form. Hey everyone. I look at Placidus. Hey T, how are you doing? How are you guys doing? Oh my gosh, hey Stu loves astrology. Hey guys, how are you doing? Oh, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas too, Mary. What's new? Eliza, you said you've been daydreaming a lot for years, almost to the point of addiction. Do I have any spiritual insight on the purpose of daydreaming? Well, here's the thing. If you daydream, it's a few things. First of all, you're open energetically. So you're kind of going into the psychic realms. So then you already have the ability to potentially be psychic or to be creative, okay? So that's the gift with all of that. Now, if you're not in alignment with your purpose or you're not utilizing it in, one of these ways, well, then you're kind of going into escapism. That's the thing. And you might have 12th house or you might have like strong Neptune in your chart. You could even have Pisces energy in there as well, okay? So that's what daydreaming could be. It's like a form of escapism from the current reality, probably because there's something in the current reality that's not resonating with you. Usually it becomes like a self-protection thing. It starts like in the early days, but at the same time, you're able to leave your body, right? So it's an ability that you can develop into psychic gifts and abilities, basically, okay, when you're able to daydream. So it's just, a matter of which direction are you taking it in. How are you guys doing? It's because of the Pluto and Capricorn, Bella. It's so interesting. And so when you guys were asking me about that before all of that went down, I'm kind of speaking between the lines here. But basically, like when you guys were asking me who I thought was going to win, I was basically saying that, you know, I found it interesting that the election was during the old energies, which are Pluto and Capricorn. So I would have to find which live that was on where I was saying that. But yes, that was before all of that went down. So I said it was going to be interesting to see if the old energies, like if the new energies allow the old energies to continue. Like, let's see what happens in the new year is basically what that is with the Pluto and Aquarius and going forward. Because also, I have this like idea that they're trying to kind of absolve the GOV altogether. Like they're kind of trying to go into like a technocracy, if that makes sense, or even like a robocracy, which is so interesting because it was so interesting. I was playing trivia with my family. This was like a few months ago now. And one of the questions was asking like the different types of GOV structures. And like the current GOV structure is basically based in religion, if you think about it, right? Where it's like the God is like the top of the chain. Like that's kind of what everything is based in like in one way, shape or form. But like there was a name for it. I can't remember what the name was now. But there was another question in the trivia where it was like, oh, what is, you know, the name of, you know, a system or a structure where they have like robots basically at the top of the structure. And I'm pretty sure it was called robocracy, but they also have like technocracy as well, where they worship tech. So I think that's the direction that they're trying to go in. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Okay, you knew it too, right? Yeah. That's what I was saying. I was like, let's see if, you know, let's see what happens after January. I'm really curious to see like how can I say this between the lines? Like if this individual will actually continue or like be in the position is basically what that is, right? So it's like a karmic thing, basically like why this person got in, and it's the old energy. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it. So I see us going more into like a completely different direction where they're kind of trying to absolve it, basically is what that is. Like the way the structure is now, and they're trying to get us in the direction of literally AI, allegedly, in my own opinion. This is just my own opinion. So that's kind of Pluto and Aquarius. We're kind of going in that direction. So there might not even be any structure at that point in time. Like there could just be like some sort of like AI type of thing that's kind of leading everything. I know that might sound out there right now, and we just entered Pluto and Aquarius, but let's see throughout Pluto and Aquarius what happens. Happy holidays. How are you guys doing? You said your dreams have been coming true as soon as the next day. It's so interesting having Neptune on your rising. It's been getting stronger every day. Yeah, exactly. If you start to practice your psychic gifts and abilities, you will see how strong it actually becomes, basically. And eventually you will realize that the current reality is basically you lucid dreaming is basically what that is. Yes, T, that's one of my theories too, that they're going to get him. Yeah, I think that's one of my theories. Like that is one of my theories. That's something that I think is going to end up happening. That he's not going to be in there for long. Like, because they even show us, right? Like if you watch the SIMPSONS, right? Like they always show us like what's going to go down, right? So there's that. And it's interesting because I always did see a feminine individual in power. I just saw another individual in power. And maybe after all of that, then at that point in time, that's when we kind of go into like the whole robot type of situation. I'm kind of speaking between the lines here, but I hope you guys are catching my drift. So they show us in that show, right? So they're always showing us what's going to happen, right? So yes, I do think that that's something that will potentially end up happening. Now, when, I don't know, but I do see that as well. Okay, I'm going back up to see what you guys were saying up here. How are you guys doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Yes, I look at the Placidus system in terms of natal charts. I don't look at the whole sign system. The Placidus just resonates with my own chart more, and then in general I found that it resonates with individuals as well. And then in the Placidus tropical system, there is also something called interceptions. So there's like a meaning for everything, basically. You said before we discussed that you think that I should post a video discussing color analysis either. Oh, interesting. Okay, let me screenshot that. How are you guys doing? You said trivia fact, you love trivia, you love random knowledge, random access memories, Daft Punk, Pharrell Williams produced, LV director. Oh, I love that. I'm usually the one asking the trivia questions. I'm usually the one asking those trivia questions. And then one of my family members is a Gemini rising, and this individual knows so much. Hey, Nate, how are you doing? I'm excited to do your reading as well. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I love that you love them. Thank you for being a part of the channel. But yes, so if you guys are gonna play trivia and you guys play with a Gemini rising or like Gemini energy in the natal chart, like in the personal planets, like that person is probably going to know everything. But yes, in terms of trivia, I'm usually the person asking the questions, not actually answering them. You said you used to daydream a lot as a child, maladaptive at one point. Yeah, that's like, it's like a form of like coping usually for children too, especially if like the current reality is not fulfilling. So that's kind of how you learn to get out of body, is basically what that is. And then later on, it can turn into kind of like daydreaming all day long. But at the same time, you can have like a strong third eye chakra, right? Like your visualization game is going to be super strong when you're like a daydreamer. So it's just a matter of putting those daydreams into action, is basically what that is. Hey Clarice, how are you doing? Yeah, no, the Geminis, like, or if you have like any like strong Mercury in your chart, yeah, those people are the ones who know trivia, right? Because they usually know a lot of random facts about everything, is really, really what that is. So it's just so, it's so entertaining, because now in terms of astrology, I always like connect everything back to astrology. So it's just so interesting to observe people and to see them playing out their natal charts, is basically what that is. Oh yeah, one of you guys said you don't want to come back. Yeah, I have that video. If you guys are new here, I have the video of how to not reincarnate again from my own perspective and my own opinion thus far. Okay, if you guys are interested in not reincarnating again, or like attempting to not reincarnate again, okay, because it definitely is like a recycling type of thing. It's really, really interesting. So there's that. Hey Luna, oh my gosh, Luna, I haven't seen you in here in a while. How are you doing? You said, how do we heal childhood trauma that holds us back in life? So you want to get to the root of it. And a lot of the time with trauma, it's like more so the feeling that's attached to the trauma that you want to heal. So you kind of like want to go back, and then you want to feel it, you want to experience it, and then kind of like patch it up energetically. I hope that makes sense. So in terms of trauma, like a lot of the roots of trauma are either like, it's all like lower chakra related. So it's either like not feeling safe, not feeling protected, not feeling secure, feeling abandoned is a big one too that tends to happen. Or it could be emotional abandonment, like it depends. Your natal chart will give us a little bit more insight as to what that potentially could have been. But basically what you want to do is you want to go back into that moment. And I know sometimes for people reliving it is going to be super traumatic. So it's like you want to see what the feeling is that's connected to the trauma. It's kind of like peeling off an onion, because a lot of the time when you start your healing journey, like the way that it works is like you first start by externalizing. Like that's when you come into the awareness that there even is a problem, okay? Because most people are on autopilot and they are kind of just like reacting out of their wounding, okay? People who are unaware, not awakened, and like not even, you know, on a healing journey of any sort, right? And that's why those people are easy to read, because they're operating out of their wounding, is basically what that is, okay? So there's that. But then when you start to kind of, you know, see that there's something going on, that's kind of like the first step in the whole healing process. You see that like there's something going on, it kind of starts to come into your awareness, right? So in the beginning, everybody, right, before they are in a healing journey, they usually project, okay? And that's even if they got to the point of projecting, right? So it's like, that's even like, you know, wondering like, is it even in your awareness yet at that point in time? Do you know what I mean? Because for you to project, you still have to have some sort of awareness that there's an issue. Do you know what I mean? So usually when it all kind of starts, you know, it might start with you being like, okay, it's that person, it's that person, it's that person, is basically what that is, okay? So you kind of start to connect the dots, right? And then you're like, okay, it's every time this person says this, right? Like you're starting to connect it more and more, right? So then you're like, okay, it's every time, and then you might think that it's the person, but it might not be the person. It might be just like what the person is saying, right? So then you might connect it to that. And then you could kind of go deeper and deeper until you kind of get to the root of it. And the root of it is usually connected to some sort of emotion that is being triggered within you, is basically what that is, okay? And those emotions are usually things that are out of the lower chakras. So it can be like shame. It can be, let's say like criticism, for example. Let's say you grew up like with a critical parent or parents, for example, like the Virgos are going to know all about that. So in that particular case, it's like, you know, you could be hypersensitive to criticism, for example. And then because you're sensitive to criticism, you go into perfectionism. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a whole thing is basically what that is, right? So let's say it's something like that, or it could be shame, or it could be like, sacral chakra like is on a range because that could also be codependency. So a lot of the time when people don't address their emotions, they go into codependency is basically what that is. And codependency is on a range. Like if you're more operating out of the feminine energy, you go into kind of like being like a love addict and like constantly looking for relationships and like validation through that person, right? And then if you're more out of the masculine energy, like wounded masculine, wounded feminine, well then in that case, they kind of go more into sexual addictions, but it could also be vice versa. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of just like compartmentalizing the energy of how it could kind of manifest, but regardless. And then if it goes into the extreme version, it could actually be like drugs and substances and like trying to escape because you're constantly trying to escape some sort of feeling is basically what that is. So what you want to do is you basically want to get to the root of what the feeling is basically what that is, okay? So that's what it's all connected to, and it's so interesting because the whole world is revolved around not feeling your feelings, okay? And that's why you have people who like blow up at the smallest thing or like explode because those people have like years of repressed feelings and emotions, okay? And that's all deep rooted. So yeah, it could be something like this. It could be shame. So that could be like the sacral chakra. It could be abandonment. It could be not feeling seen, not feeling heard. It could be your throat chakra, for example, like you never got to fully express, you never got to be yourself. For example, it could be this. I've noticed that sometimes with like shadow Scorpio people, what I've noticed with the shadow Scorpio energy is like they get very good at hiding who they are, okay? And that's out of self-preservation. So that's another thing too, is like then everything comes back down to self-preservation. Like that's why people act in these ways because it's all coming from self-preservation and survival. It's like deep is really what that is. So it's basically this when you start healing. So you basically want to get to the root of the feeling and the emotion, right? So that's why my videos usually like I slip in here and there like what it could be, you know what I mean? So it could be abandonment, it could be, what else could it be? It could be feeling powerless. That's a big one too. So usually people who are like power hungry or craving power, people who felt powerless when they were younger as well. It could be this, it could be control, for example. So it like kind of always manifests that way. Like let's say you always need to control your environment. It's because you felt out of control when you were younger, for example. And it's like also connected to like self-soothing as well, okay? So it's like, it's so many things, basically. You said you're gonna do meditations for inner child and shadow work, even though you hate shadow work. I know a lot of people don't like shadow work. It's a thing because you have to then actually reflect within yourself, and it's challenging and it's hard, and you're gonna have to undo a lot of things. And it's a mini ego death every time, right? That it comes into your awareness, because then you kind of realize that all this time you basically weren't living a truth is basically what that is. Because that's what the ego is. The ego is like protecting you is really what that is. It's kind of like an identity that you develop again out of self-preservation or survival is basically what that is, okay? Or society telling you to behave in a certain type of way. So it's this. So that's basically what shadow work is all about. And it's easier to do it on your own time and then on your own terms versus, let's say, it gets triggered within you when you're in a relationship. And that's usually when it comes through and comes to the surface. It's usually going to be in some sort of relationship, whether it's romantic or your friends. Family is the biggest one, right? So it's like sometimes it's easier to try to heal it at the root of it all, which is usually the home. And by the way, I'm not a psychologist or anything of that sort. That's always my disclaimer there. But everything that's stemmed from the home and the original two caregivers is basically what that is. And then astrology can assist us to see maybe what those core wounds and wounding could be. But after you kind of go through the whole purging and transmuting process, it's way better on the other side, and it's way easier on the other side because now you're not wasting so much energy trying to preserve yourself. Do you know what I mean? So you start to go more with the flow of things. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Astrology, you said you can't unsee astrology, not a single day, possibly hour goes by without an astrological thought. Exactly. So you said it's the natal sun in Virgo classification and obsession with all things Plutonian. Exactly. That's what it is. Because you start to see it in everything, and then everyone kind of starts to become a case study. Like that's my first question. Anytime anyone's telling me a story, I'm like, what's their birthday? What's their natal chart? Like I'm looking it up already because I'm already making connections. Because in my mind, as they're telling me, let's say about a person or a situation, I'm already like, okay, they're doing it because of this. And I'm always looking, like usually when people tell me like shadowy types of situations, I'm always looking to see what's going on with Scorpio, what house is Scorpio in, what's going on with Pluto, are there any Pluto aspects? And then I go even into synastry, like let's say they're telling me a story about, two people or them and a person. That's what I'm looking for. basically. Like that's kind of what I'm looking for in most people's natal charts to see, because that's what's going to really tell you what's going on with the individual. It's like something behind the like surface, beneath the surface, like these types of things. So yeah. Oh my gosh, you two, no way. Oh my gosh, yes, we are all on the same page. I'm just gonna go back up here and see. You said you started your obsession in 2007 for a tiny bit, then big pow of interest, deep dive in 2008. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, so you started right at that Pluto in Capricorn transit. I'm just gonna go up and see what you guys were saying up here. You said Saturn transiting your 12th house has been so difficult. Any advice on how to pull yourself out of depression? You feel like life has descended to a lower timeline and it's been a struggle to get back on track. Okay, so anytime you guys sense yourselves like going into depression, usually I find, this is just my own opinion, again, and I'm not a psychologist, so those are my disclaimers always. But if you guys sense yourself going into a depression, there's probably something going on in your life. You're stuck in stagnancy, okay? So you could be stuck in some sort of stagnancy in your life. So you could start to switch up the stagnancy by switching up by like doing one thing differently. So like let's say taking a class and then you start to meet people and then that opens you up to other things. Because the thing is you want to get back into the excitement energy is really what that is. When you're in that depression energy is some form of stagnancy and like you're neither here nor there energetically. That's just kind of how I see it, okay? So that's one thing. And another thing too that can kind of assist with depression is to try to find a new goal. Like you can either try to find something that you love to do, something that brings you excitement, or try to find some sort of goal to work towards is really what that is. And that's usually what's going to assist people who are in a depressive type of state, okay? Because usually depression energy is like, you feel like you're stagnant, you're not moving anywhere energetically is really what that is, okay? And you feel like nothing is, happening and you kind of have to try to pull yourself out of that energy, okay? So it could even assist you, like let's say you go to the gym, for example, to like actually get the hormones in the body going, okay, or you take some sort of gym class. It could be this way as well, starting to take walks. But yes, the main things are like to try to surround yourself by people that you love or like doing things that you love, because I find like the depression demon and just like that energy in general like always tries to isolate people. And then it's like this whole thing, because it's like it tries to isolate you and then you kind of get into the comfort zone of being isolated, if that makes sense. And anytime you are fully in isolation, like there's different types, right? Like obviously you have time where you go into like that energy to like detox and like be in your own energy, but then it's like it's too much, you know what I mean? Because as humans we need interaction, right? So then trying to pull yourself out of that, and you're gonna have to force yourself sometimes to actually be pulled out of that energy. And then you'll see when you switch up your vibes, whether that's switching up your routine, whether that's starting something new that you like and you find out that you like it, or whether that's trying multiple things, you know what I mean? To try to get that excitement energy going. And then, that thing can lead you to the next, to the next, to the next is basically what it is. So that's the way that I see it. You said, what does it mean to be a Plutonian person? You have Pluto and Scorpio in the A house. And it aspects literally everything. Opposing your moon and Mars, square Jupiter, sextiling your stellium on top of everything else. Okay, so there's something where you can check what your dominant planets are. You'd have to go on one of the astrology websites, okay? So when you go on the astrology websites, you can look to see your dominant planet, okay, or planets, and then it's gonna tell you what is your dominant planet. Usually tells you, like it tells you in order, you can check for your top 3. The thing is, the website that I used to go on doesn't do it anymore, but then there was another website. There's another way that you can do it to check for yourself, basically, so I'm gonna have to do a video on that because it's gonna be a little bit more explaining, but it's like the way they calculate the dominant planets is like they try to get to the root of the energy, okay? So for example, let's say, okay, you have Mars in Aquarius, okay? You have Mars in Aquarius, and this is based off of ancient rulership, okay? So Mars is in Aquarius, and you want to see, where's Saturn in your chart, what sign is Saturn in, and you keep kind of doing that until you get to a point where you either get to the root of the energy, okay? And that's going to be how your Mars in Aquarius is operating, or you get to something called a mutual reception, okay? But I'm gonna have to do a video on that to explain that a little bit more. Otherwise, you can go on those websites, okay, or any astrology website, or just like type in dominant planet in Google and maybe it'll come up on one of the websites. Unfortunately, the website that I used to check back in the day, they don't offer anymore for whatever reason, okay? But it's this, so that's kind of what Plutonian is, okay? It's if you have a lot of Pluto energy, like in your case, you have a lot of Pluto aspects, but it still depends to see, are you actually Pluto dominant, okay? Is basically what that is. So that's basically what a Plutonian is. It's someone who their main core energy is Pluto, is really, really what that is. Hey, It Girl Success, how are you doing? You said depression is a sign that we need change. Exactly, in our lives, like you're currently going through your own mind right now due to being stuck inside all day. Exactly, that's basically what that is, okay? So that's really what it is. And it's interesting because then you'll see in places where it's like colder in the winter, like sometimes people have seasonal depression, but then it's also like a collective thing. Like if you're more empathetic or you're more energetically open or you're like porous, okay, you pick up on the collective vibe in that particular area is basically what that is, because then everybody's kind of in the energy of like not wanting to leave, kind of chilling, which is fine. Like there's hermiting energy, like there's different types of energies because there's hermiting, but then there's also just depression types of energies, okay? So it's exactly that. Usually that energy is indicating to you that there's something in your life that needs to be changed and you're in some form of stagnancy and you need to, it's going to be challenging because it's a comfort zone thing after a while. And that's what I was thinking too. Like a lot of things in life just become habits is really what that is. And then it becomes a comfort zone thing and it becomes like a soothing thing. Like that's also what I find that a lot of addiction is rooted in as well. There's different types of addiction, but a lot of them are also rooted in comfort as well. Where it's like you develop some sort of addictive tendency as a self-soothing thing, right? To soothe whatever you're feeling in that particular moment. And again, going back to the question that we were speaking on earlier, okay, or one of you guys asked, basically of how to heal, well, then you'd have to get to the root of that emotion. And you'd have to catch yourself in that moment when you're being pulled to the addictive pattern. What emotion are you feeling in that particular moment is basically what that is. And that's how you would cut it. BRB, you guys. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I'm back. You said, that's wonderful, a much needed riff for the world to know. You said, yeah, okay, good. I'm glad that that resonated. Good. Yeah, well, that's what happens after a while. Then you start hermiting too much and then you don't want to engage with people anymore, which like, sometimes you need that phase. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you need a phase to just like reset, you know, and you kind of go into the hermiting phase, but then you have to know within yourself when it's like a little too much, you know, and it's like, that's all you're doing. So you'll only know for yourself is basically what that is. You said you've been wanting to see what your dominant planet is. You thought it was a water sign planet because you have 16 times water placements. Wow. Yeah, check. I used to have a video, it might still be on here, of how to check on that original website that I used to go on. But last time I tried to check for somebody, it wasn't there. So maybe they changed the website. I haven't gone since then. So maybe they changed the website, but then I was talking to another person and they told me another website that they use for the dominant planet. And then I never checked after that. So, because I already knew mine, you know what I mean? So I just like didn't bother to check. But yes, maybe after this live, if I remember, I'll go and see where I could actually find it. But yes, there should be a calculator somewhere online where you guys can calculate your dominant planet and it's going to tell you your dominant sign. You said, how should you interpret your Aquarius sun sextiling your Aries Saturn? So you have sun sextiling Saturn. That's actually pretty good. That's like a hard worker, business-minded type of person. How are you doing? Yeah, that's basically what that is, okay? The sun sextiling Saturn. The father could have been strict and it could have been like a very disciplinarian like type of father or like home, okay, in that type of situation with the sun. Usually the sun is the father or the dominant masculine role in your life. So sun sextiling Saturn, usually the sextiles and trines are nice because it's like, it's kind of like a complementary energy. It doesn't like take over. It's kind of just like adding, if that makes sense. So yeah, sun sextiling Saturn, this is like a business-minded person, someone who's hardworking. You could be very authoritative yourself. And again, you could have grown up with some sort of discipline, which are all things that you need to thrive down here on this earth plane, basically. Is the sound choppy for you guys? Let me know. One of you guys said that the sound is choppy. Oh, is it choppy? Why is it being choppy? Let me do this. The sound is good for you? Let me know now. Is the sound good? Is the sound choppy? You said you checked your dominant planet on AstroSeek. So can you guys type yes, the sound is good, if it's good? Okay. Okay, you guys are saying it sounds good. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I can continue talking. Okay, good. You checked your dominant planet on AstroSeek. You're not dominant. You're not Pluto dominant. You're Saturnian, Uranus, and then Moon dominant, Capricorn signature. Okay, well, there you go. So you guys go on this website, AstroSeek, and you guys can check what your dominant planet is. And I'm going to check mine again just for fun after the live, even though I've checked it before. Hey, Angela. Oh my gosh, how are you doing? Okay, it's probably because I left and then I came back. But now you guys can hear, right? Okay, good. Good to know. Okay, I'm gonna go back up and see who I may have missed up here. Oh, I'm glad, Luna. I'm seeing your message all the way from up here. Thanks so much for the likes, you guys. Yes, make sure you guys double tap the video if you guys would like to like the live. You said you've been meaning to ask, what are my thoughts on Venus conjunct South Node in Synastry? Does that mean the South Node person has to detach from the Venus? Not necessarily. It just means that it's a very familiar connection. It could even be a past life connection. When you have South Node Synastry, whoop, oh my goodness, you guys are flying away from me. But yes, that's South Node Synastry, okay? So the person could feel very familiar to you. You could feel familiar to them with that synastry. So there could be something that you guys are clearing here from a previous lifetime, okay, with the South Node synastry. No, I did not miss your question, or I didn't see your question. You said Venus and Aquarius. You want to know about Venus and Aquarius? Venus and Aquarius is basically where the collective is heading, okay? So people who have Venus and Aquarius, or Venus and Uranus aspects in their natal chart, or Venus in the 11th house even, or the descendant, which is the 7th house in Aquarius, okay? These people are ahead of the time when it comes to relationships, okay? Even Uranus in the 7th house people as well. Or Aquarius, yeah, Aquarius occupying the 7th house overall, okay? These people are ahead of the time. They're more detached when it comes to relationships, okay? So whatever the norm is, they might also rebel in relationships as well. Now, the whole reason this comes up for these people is probably because in a previous lifetime, they weren't able to fully be the self in a relationship, or they maybe sacrificed a lot for a relationship, or they weren't fully able to express the self, okay, because maybe of a relationship or the people around them. So anytime you guys have any of these aspects taking place in your natal chart, basically what happens here is that you have this strong need or desire for individuality, is basically what that is. So relationships can be a little bit of a struggle unless you find someone who understands that about you and who's on the same page as you, okay, with the Aquarius energy. Now, usually this energy, unless you have something else going on with the Venus, you guys always want to check the aspects and see what else is going on in your natal chart. Let's say you have Saturn aspecting the Venus and you have Venus in Aquarius, well, then the story is going to be different here, because then you're going to be looking for long-term committed relationships with a little bit of space in there to still be able to express the self, okay? But if we look at the way relationships are right now, at this point in time in this video, okay, so 2024, okay, December, right now, the way relationships are is that people are super enmeshed. Everybody is kind of codependent, and you know, people kind of are together operating as one unit together, okay? So the Aquarius energy is always going to want to leave that, or they're going to find a way to either consciously or unconsciously, like subconsciously, sabotage, okay? So you'll see these people, again, you know, they need space. They need, you know, their sense of freedom, yes, but it's more so connected to individuality and being their own person, okay? So again, you'll see these people maybe in long distance relationships. When it comes to your friendships, you might see your best friend like once a year and you guys are still besties. Also, it's connected to the internet, and because we do live in a time of internet, these people can feel very connected to people because of the fact that we have access to internet. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, because of that, again, you might not feel the need to see people all the time. Okay, so that's that Aquarius energy, Venus and Aquarius. So it's like a level of detachment. I look at it as healthy in my own opinion, okay? Because it's like, you know, everyone gets to be their own person. Nobody's overly enmeshed. Nobody's overly involved. You're not financially bound, okay? Because up until this point in time, there's been a lot of energetic binding when it comes to relationships, okay? It's just the way that it is. So these people are a little bit ahead of the time, basically, when it comes to relationships. And that's where the collective is going, to the point where it's like everybody's their own person. You know, relationships can begin and end when they're meant to. You kind of move on to the next. You know, nobody is attached to anybody in like a shadow sense, again, where it's overly enmeshed, or like, again, financially attached. Because the thing is, when you're financially attached or bound to a person, it's usually harder to leave that situation, right? Because then you have to go through the whole legal thing and all of that, right? So it's this. So that's the Aquarian energy, okay? Aquarius is ahead of the time, and they're not going to be interested in anything of that sort, basically, when it comes to relationships. Hey, how you guys doing? Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm going to screenshot that. I'm so glad that you enjoyed your natal chart reading. Exactly. And you'll see this within Aquarius, like within the chart, or Uranus aspects within the chart, okay? You'll see that within individuals overall that have this energy within them, or for someone who would be, let's say, Uranus dominant. They are going against the grain. Like, they might be rebels, yes, but it's like they just have the need to be their own person, to be the self, right? And a lot of the time, these people are going to start trends, and then as soon as the group joins the trend, they're going to leave. Right? So they're the trendsetters, but they don't want to be part of the group because it's about individualism, right? It's about the individuality. It's about the self. So as soon as everybody else starts doing that, they're going to be like, I'm not about that anymore, okay? And usually these people in astrology, like back in the day at least, it was like 10 to 15 years ahead of the time, the Aquarius energy. These days, the frequency of the planet is higher, so maybe it's going to be like 5 years ahead of the time, or like 1 year, you know what I mean? But so they're ahead of the collective, okay? And also that Uranus energy is the collective mind in one way, shape, or form, if you think about it as well, right? So it's like the energy is kind of plugged into that. And that's why they're also inventors and innovators and in tech and in AI, like all these things, okay? Because they're ahead of the time. They already see where the collective is going. So a lot of the time, these people, when they're younger, they might get labeled as like eccentric or out of the box, or they might have like trouble fitting in. But you'll also see these individuals as well, even Venus and Aquarius too, actually, since one of you guys asked, or again, like Aquarius in the chart, or like, you know, Aquarius dominant, or your Uranus dominant, or like Uranus aspects as well. You know, in this particular case, like this individual, you know, might have a lot of friends, and they're also going to be non-judgmental, right? So they're going to have a lot of friend groups, but they're never really going to belong to one group, because that's the energy. It doesn't want to belong, okay? It's an energy where the person wants to be the self, is basically what that is, okay? Oh, thank you. See, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. Hey, Sarah, how are you doing? What's new? Hey, Dream Synopsis. It's so interesting you say that, because just now I was saying to you guys, as I was saying that to you guys like out loud, I was thinking in my head, and I was thinking, for example, for the individual who's asking about the Pluto aspects, but then you didn't end up being Pluto dominant, right? So I was thinking about that actually for myself as I was saying that to you guys. There's so much going on. But anyways, so basically what I was thinking in my head, I was like, see, that's an example. Because like, for example, I'm Pluto dominant, but I have a lot of Uranus aspects taking place in my chart. Like all of my personal planets are pretty much aspected by Uranus in one way, shape, or form, okay? And the one planet that isn't is aspected by Uranus by the transit. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, my dominant energy is actually Pluto. So do you know what I mean? Like you could have aspects taking place, but it doesn't mean you're going to be that dominant energy in your energy field. So anyways, that's so interesting you brought that up, Esperanza. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like every time I look at my natal chart, there's something new that I discover. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is happening too. Like it's so interesting. I love you guys too. You guys are so awesome. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. You said that's hard when you're a hopeless romantic like me, if this is where the collective is going. Yeah, well, I'm letting you know now so you can be mentally prepared. But here's the thing, okay? Here is the thing, okay? Something to reflect on for all of the hopeless romantics. Because I actually do have a video on here where I talk about love, and I'm not saying this is you at all, okay? But I have a video on here under my metaphysical playlist called Love, Dating, and Narcissist, okay? Not narcissist, but narcissist, like the Greek mythology person, okay? Who fell in love with himself, okay? Basically, the whole point of that video was me saying that people are trying to fall in love with themselves through relationships, okay? So something to reflect on if you are a hopeless romantic and you're looking for this whole love story is, why are you looking for that? Is really what that is. You don't have to answer me, but it's just something to think about. Like, that's what I think about always. Anytime I'm doing something, I'm like, why am I doing what am I doing, right? So for these individuals, something to reflect on is why is that a need? Why does that need to happen? Like, what is it that you were looking for in this dynamic? Is it because you want to be seen? Because a lot of the time, the hopeless romantic people, what happens with them is like, they think there's gonna be this one true love and this one person and all of this, right? But it's like, why does it have to be just the one person? Do you know what I mean? Could it be a few people that lead you there eventually, you know? So it's like, a lot of the time I find with them, what happens is they didn't feel seen when they were younger. It's just about an opinion, okay? So it's like, they think that this one person is gonna come into their life and like see them, right? So it's like, now knowing this, allowing yourself to be seen, you're not gonna be looking for that anymore. Does that make sense? Okay, right? You said you literally see something new. Exactly, every time. And it's like, I see it and I'm like, wait, I thought I knew this already. And then I'm like, okay, hold on a second. I'm like, hold on a second. I didn't actually know that that was there. So I'm like, okay, now this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. So I'm thinking of doing another series. I'm not going to tell you what that is yet. I'm not going to tell you guys what that is yet. Okay, but that's going to be in the new year. So yes, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Oh, good. I'm glad that that's relatable. You're also Plutonian. Hey, welcome. You said Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun 0 degrees, Pluto in the first house with your sun sextiling Uranus, and you said change. Yeah, exactly. For this energy, like the only constant is change. You said you're a hopeful romantic. True. Yeah, exactly. Because you have the Venus Neptune conjunction. You weren't seen or loved as a child, so you're pretty sure that that's why you romanticize love. Yeah, and a lot of the time, these people too. So it happens with these people too. Okay. And maybe my reflections can assist you guys as well, or not. You guys can leave them if they don't resonate. But what happens with these people sometimes as well is they tend to grow up in environments that are either tumultuous or they don't have a healthy example of love with the parents. So then what happens is you turn to TV and you attach your perception on love through the characters you see on TV. And like in movies and all these things, that's all romanticized. is basically what that is. So then you're in for a rude awakening when reality hits, is basically what that is. And I'm not trying to shatter the illusion for you guys. It's just like these individuals like put it on such a pedestal that there's always an energy of disappointment attached to them. So this is why you'll see a lot of the time like the greatest artists and the greatest writers and screenwriters and books and all these things have these aspects, because you have that creativity, you have that wonderful imagination. So an outlet for this could be through writing or through art or through creating or through music and these types of things, okay? Another thing too, what I will say for Venus Neptune aspects is that these people dream about money a lot too, okay? Because Venus can be money as well. So with that being said, it's like sometimes you can spend more time dreaming about money. Oh my gosh, when I have this much money. Oh, when I have this, and these types of things. And I find a lot of the time, connecting back to what one of you guys was saying earlier as well about dreaming, okay? A lot of the time, if you're in the dreaming state, it's because something in the physical realm isn't fulfilling you, is basically what that is. So you'd have to explore and look within the self and see what is taking place in the physical reality that is not fulfilling, and how can you fulfill yourself, because you're not ever going to find it through another person, and that's actually putting yourself in a dangerous situation. Especially the Venus Neptune individuals, like they have, or just like, again, not just Venus Neptune, it could also be Pisces in the 7th, Pisces in the 5th, it could be Neptune in the 7th and Neptune in the 5th, because then when they think they finally found this one true love, then it's like you see the person through rose-colored lens and you connect to their higher self, and you're not actually connecting to the person who's in the physical realm. And then it's like this person can be like shadowy or shady, and they could do all these things, and then it's like, oh no, but true love this and true love that, and I love this person, and it's like, you know, you're now in this situation, and how do you get out of this situation? And then it's hard to get out of it because you're attaching to this dream, is basically what that is. So it's a struggle, especially if you have like Venus Neptune, because then people who are within your generation, you're gonna have that in the synastry with them as well. They're gonna echo that energy. So then it's like you'll think everyone is your one true love within the generation, okay? So it's basically what that is. Hey, how are you guys doing? You said real life is what we make it. That's the gift and the curse. Exactly, is basically what that is. I appreciate you guys as well. North Node is the direction you're heading in this lifetime. Interesting you say that for Venus, Jupiter. It's interesting you say that for Venus and Jupiter, because I'm curious to know what else is going on in your natal charts too, because you said you feel that for Venus, Jupiter, because Venus, Jupiter is actually seeking freedom when it comes to relationships, and you actually have a lot of options. So sometimes that's another struggle if you have too many options, and this could be like overall a worldly thing right now, because like with online dating and all of that, people kind of think they have so many options, so that no one's committing. And that's another thing too. Like Venus Neptune is also going to be a non-committal type of energy, and so is Venus Jupiter as well, because it's like when you have so many choices, you can't commit to one person, right? And you don't have to, you know what I mean? But it's like a whole paradox of choice, is basically what that is. Okay, my take on the North Node, that's basically where you're heading in this lifetime, okay? So you always want to look at the South Node. The South Node is where you come from. Sometimes it says what you mastered in a previous lifetime, but the thing is, if you mastered it, you wouldn't reincarnate again. That's how I see it personally. So you want to take the South Node and see how can you apply that in a North Node type of way, is basically what that is. So the North Node is your destiny in one way, shape, or form. It's where you are heading in this lifetime, right? So the North Node, you want to see what's going on with the North Node. Are there aspects of the North Node, like all these things, because that's going to tell you what's helping you get to your destiny. Now the North Node, what's interesting with this is every placement has like a maturity energy, like a maturity age, and I'm pretty sure for North Node it's 48. You guys can double check that, but yes, I'm pretty sure it's around there, which I find interesting that that's like the maturity for the North Node, because another thing that I've heard in astrology as well is that when you complete your North Node, you cross out of this earth plane. So we can kind of leave that energy just like, oh my gosh, it's so interesting, I'm at 48 minutes right now. That's so interesting. But anyways, we can kind of leave that as like, don't hold on to the age kind of thing, right? Because again, then you're not going to actually do the things that you need to do to fulfill the North Node, if that makes sense. So it's this. You said you have Aquarius. So for you, Mystic Journal, interesting, the North Node conjunct Saturn, you're going to achieve your life purpose, okay, by hard work and effort and discipline, okay? And also the masculines in your life, which is Saturn, are assisting you in your overall North Node, okay? In completing your purpose, is basically what that is. Now we can also look at Saturn as like the patriarchy energy as well, okay? So there's something with the patriarchy that's assisting you with your overall life purpose kind of thing. That's basically what it is. And also it could be the father, which usually the first patriarch, right, if you think about it, is the father or the dominant masculine role in your life, okay? So this individual is assisting you in, your overall life purpose. Now that's the thing to see. So this is another thing you guys can do to see what kind of masculine energy you guys are pulling through, okay, into your life and towards you. You would look at the sun and you would look at the Mars and you would look at the Saturn, okay, to see what feminine energy you guys are pulling towards you. Is going to be the moon and it's going to be the Venus, okay? You're welcome. So Gabrielle, you have vertex conjuncting your descendant. So that's a fated event that you probably experienced through either a relationship or somebody that you know or a friend, some sort of interpersonal relationship, okay? You said Venus-Jupiter conjunction is in Scorpio. Oh, you have it in Scorpio. That's probably why. You have Venus in Scorpio. Okay, that's probably why. So with the stellium there, and yes, you do have many choices, but actually want to commit to one, but people don't believe you or are insecure with that. Can you elaborate? You said thoughts on Aries, North Node, Libra, South Node. So that's interesting, okay? Because when you have the Aries North Node, this lifetime is about the self, okay? And it is about figuring out who you are and picking the self. The Libra South Node could have been a lot of sacrificing for other people. So because it's in your energy field, when you're younger, you might have the tendency to fall toward the South Node, but you don't want to fall toward the South Node. You want to focus on the North Node, okay? Now, with that being said, the people, okay, in your life, which is Libra, and the people that you're encountering and your friends, these people, one of two things could be happening, okay? Either these people could be past life individuals that are pulling you out of your North Node, okay? Because they're distracting you. So relationships could be distracting you from the self, for example, Luna, in this lifetime, okay? It could be this. And then maybe after you transmute that, these people could actually be helping you and pushing you in the direction of the self, okay? Now I'm curious to know also what house is it in as well, okay? Hey everyone, I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Okay, you have Aquarius and Leo intercepted in the 1st and the 7th house. So when you have a 1st house interception, it's kind of like you have this like hidden part of your personality or like suppressed or like an energy that's happening behind the scenes, okay? Because basically what an interception is, it's an energy that's swallowed up in your natal chart, okay? It is sandwiched between the other energies, okay? So for you, it's going to be Aquarius and Leo, okay? And the 1st and the 7th house, which is interesting also because when you look at that axis, okay, first of all, Aquarius and Leo is the creativity axis. So that axis for you is swallowed up in the natal chart, okay? So you might struggle to express yourself creatively, whether it's Aquarius, which is your self-expression in terms of like the mind and the ideas overall, okay? Or whether it's Leo in terms of the creativity and the physical creativity, okay? So you have creativity of the mind with Aquarius and you have creativity of the self, okay, whether it's theater and acting and these types of things with Leo energy, okay? Now, you have it in the 1st house intercepted. So there's a part of your personality, okay, of the self, which is Aquarius, which is very non-judgmental, which is very unique, which maybe wants to be a little bit, against the grain, a little bit ahead of the time. You might not necessarily feel like you fit, okay, with that Aquarius, I was gonna say rising, but Aquarius in the 1st house intercepted, okay? Is basically what that is, okay? Then you have Leo in the 7th house intercepted. Leo in the 7th house intercepted basically signifies that you, in terms of your relationships, again, there's this hidden part. Because the thing is with the interception, because when you were growing up, again, everything comes back down to the original 2 caregivers. I'm not a psychologist, always my disclaimer, but still everything does come from the home and the original 2 caregivers, right? So when you were younger, they either were different than you or they weren't able to nurture that within you for whatever reason, okay? Maybe they were just different, maybe they were busy, maybe they were working all the time, whatever, okay? So that's what happens. So it's like there's this part of you here in this lifetime, especially with the Aquarius in the 1st house, that really wants to be seen, okay, for being the self, for being unique, for being ahead of the time. Is basically what that is, okay? Now, Leo in the 7th intercepted, when you're looking for relationships, you're actually looking for people that are Leo-esque or they have Leo types of qualities, okay? So this could be models, it could be athletes, it could be influencers, for example, people who are in the public eye, okay? And it's interesting because it's like, it's in your chart, so it could be people you're looking for, or you could be like this and people are attracted to you for that reason, is basically what that is, okay? Leo in the 7th also looks for loyalty, but the Leo energy struggles because it's like, sometimes their relationships might be a little bit more surface level or about the image or like, oh my gosh, we look so good together kind of thing, right? And that's sometimes where they might struggle, okay? The Leo in the 7th. Thank you. I'm so glad that resonated. What are my thoughts on North Node in Gemini in the 7th house? So your Sag, okay, so your South Node is in Sag in the 1st house with your Sag rising, which is interesting. So so sometimes, okay, this is just psychically the way that I see it. Sometimes when I see something like this, the way that I see it is like there's the earlier part of your life where you're kind of coming through to complete a certain part of your past life that you weren't able to fully complete, okay? So for you, Angela, in your case, what you're coming through to complete is the expression of that Sagittarius energy. And I kind of feel like you complete that in the earlier part of your life, okay? Which is a Sag in the 1st house, something to do with the self, expressing the self, being seen, being on that stage of like, let's say teaching, for example, with Sagittarius, usually it could be entrepreneurship. It could be, let's say traveling, like a travel blog. It could be, let's say sometimes politicians. It could be entertainers, comedians, okay? That's all Sag energy. Athletes, for example. So there's kind of like this part, I'm kind of seeing it in the earlier part of your life. You come through to clear this, and that's connected to your past life karma, okay? Because of that South Node and Sag in the 1st house. And then you have Gemini in the 7th. So something that you're mastering in this lifetime and part of the life purpose is Gemini is creating community, basically kind of like where you're at is basically what that is. It's kind of like being a big fish in a small pond when you have North Node in Gemini, okay? So like, let's say when you have it in the 7th house as well, it's like your community is assisting you and helping you prop up. So for example, let's say you start some sort of, I'm seeing like a cake business, or let's say it's like a interior design type of business, like something of the sort that's like local in your town, and you can actually have the potential to become very well known is basically what that is, okay? But that kind of happens after you clear out the earlier part of your life is really what that is. So that's when you'll see North Node in Gemini. It could be like a mayor sometimes, like something of the sort where you have the potential to become well known, but it's like a big fish in a small pond in terms of like creating the community, right, with the people that are around you, okay, wherever you're living. You're welcome. I'm glad that resonated. Also, another thing too, with that 7th house, 1st house access, okay, maybe a previous lifetime for you was all about the self, okay? So there could be tendencies with this energy, for example, when you have the South Node in the 1st house where you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I have to do everything for myself, and nobody's here to help me, and it's kind of this energy of like you're alone in the world, or you have to do it all yourself. But that's past life energy, okay? You're not meant to do it by yourself in this lifetime. You're actually meant to, because the 7th house, you're learning about relationships and networking, and it could be like a party planner, or like like a wedding planner. Do you know what I mean? Something of the sort where you are working with people and like the connections around you are actually helping prop you up in your life purpose. With Gemini also in the North Node, it could be the written or the spoken word as well, okay? So like maybe you write something, maybe you do social media, for example, maybe you do social media marketing, maybe you do marketing overall, okay? So the possibilities are endless, but it's something of the sort where like you're kind of mastering connections, right? And relationships, and not feeling like you have to do it all on your own. If you feel like that, that's something from a previous lifetime that you're meant to clear out, okay? Oh my gosh, thank you for the super chat. You guys are so awesome. You said big fish, small pond, larger than life, always have. Maybe that's the natal moon conjunct Jupiter. And exactly, you'd have to look to see also what is going on with the aspects to these placements as well, because that can add a whole different layer to the story as well, okay? Jupiter basically expands whatever it touches. And it's interesting because Jupiter is technically like a positive planet, but I find when you have the Jupiter aspecting the moon, it's like, yes, it can be positive. You can be very like happy-go-lucky energetically because that's Jupiter energetically. But I find because it expands, the energy can also kind of expand negative emotions. I hope that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? So it depends what else is going on in the natal chart. But overall, like the moon conjunct Jupiter, like the things that are going to emotionally fulfill you are things like travel, learning about different people, learning different languages, learning how people live, learning about religions and philosophies, these types of things. It could be higher education as well, like, going to school, getting a PhD, all of these things. That's interesting you asked that concerned. I felt like one of you guys were asking me that in the actual just now. You said you're curious to learn whether or not I consider the intercepted sign to be your true ascendant rather than the sign that starts with the one in the 1st house. Here's the thing, because we go through secondary progressions, you actually progress out of the original 1st house anyways, and you go into the next one anyways. You know what I mean? So it's like in the early part of your life, like maybe you could have seen yourself like this. Like let's say, for example, okay, let's say the 1st house is Capricorn, right? We'll use the example of 1st house being Capricorn, and then you have the ascendant in Aquarius intercepted, okay? The earlier part of your life, until that energy gets brought to the surface, until you progress out of it anyways, right? You could see yourself in this way. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of how I see it. Like you see yourself more so as like an Aquarius type of person, kind of like a free spirit here, there, right? But you could have felt restricted in the earlier part of your life. Sometimes when I see this energy, right, going out of like, let's say Capricorn into Aquarius, and even when you progress out of that, right, it's like maybe the earlier part of your life was you hustling, getting money, getting the gains, you know, all these things. And then you kind of go into the, okay, I'm financially comfortable aspect of things, and you kind of go into the wilder side of life, okay, the Aquarius side of life, the eccentric side of life, okay, because when you see like people who have like a lot of money, you know, because they're not focused on the root chakra anymore, or just are like financially stable or secure overall, they're not focusing on the root chakra anymore. They go more into the eccentric side of life, okay? So, you know, they might have eccentric art pieces or eccentric types of hobbies and like these types of things. So it's interesting to see. Okay, Pluto square Venus is definitely a little bit of a struggle, because that's like power struggles when it comes to your relationships, okay? So it's interesting because it's like, it's a few things, okay? So it depends what else is going on in the chart. But if we look at just Pluto square Venus, depends. Do you go more into the Pluto or do you go more into the Venus? That's the thing too with aspects, you guys. You always want to see what energy are you going into, okay? Because if you're more in the Venus, well, then you're more focused on relationships, for example, and then there could be an element of, let's say, Pluto in there that's not overpowering the relationships. But the thing is, like, Pluto tends to overpower. It just is what it is energetically, just the way that it is, because it deals with the shadows, it deals with the underworld, right? So when you have Pluto square Venus, well, in this particular case, especially if you go into the Pluto, like a lot of your relationships are going to be Plutonian, a lot of change, a lot of transformation. It could be intense, right? And it's all about clearing what's going on at the base of the spine. That's what Pluto is doing, okay? So it's this. So your relationships are going to be intense. It could be tumultuous. There could be a lot of fear of abandonment, a lot of just like shadowy things. Because what I've noticed also with like shadow Scorpio or shadow Pluto overall is like they can go so much into self-preservation energetically when they are in the lower versions of themselves. A few things are happening. First of all, they can get energetically stuck in the head, okay, in a situation where they're like not acting on something because there's so much in the mind. And it's like, it's so interesting to see, because it's like, because there's so much in self-preservation, they're trying to calculate everything. They want to get the best possible outcome for that, for themselves. They're not actually acting in the physical realm. Do you know what I mean? They're not acting on a particular situation or whatever it is, because they're constantly like calculating, and that's usually a trauma response. And that trauma response is connected to feeling abandoned or loss overall. Okay, that's kind of like with the Plutonian like root of the energy, or like the root of their self-preservation is not wanting to feel abandoned and not wanting to lose the person or situation or whatever it is. Okay, sometimes it can be a job, for example. Okay, so that being said, when you have Pluto square Venus, you can be like this in relationships, okay? Where again, if you're in the lower versions and you're in the Pluto aspect of things and you're really going through shadow work season, okay? In that particular case, you could be jealous, you could be manipulative, you could be obsessive, you can be all these things, but all of these energies are rooted in you being more so in your own energy, and you're not actually engaging in the actual relationship itself. Because like sometimes this energy gets so preoccupied with the loss of the person, let's say Pluto and Venus, for example, or like fearing losing the person, that they're not actually enjoying the time with the person. Do you know what I mean? And then they inadvertently push that person away in one way, shape, or form. Okay, they end up getting the outcome that they were trying to preserve themselves from, but they didn't even actually enjoy the relationship because they spent the whole time preserving themselves from that happening. I hope that makes sense, okay? That's Pluto square Venus. So it could be you, and then also it could be people like this are attracted to you, okay? So it's a lot of this. And then after you heal and you transmute all of this energy, which is what Pluto's trying to do, is trying to clear what's going on at the base of the spine and all of that, like energetic, you can look at it as junk or shadows or just like collective shadows and wounds and all these things. After you transmute that, then you go into looking for deep relationships, intimate relationships. But that's the thing, it's like the Plutonian energy, Pluto is like obsessed with control, but they're meant to learn that they're not meant to control anything. It's basically what that is, and that most things are out of our control in this world anyways, right? So that's the energy. And then also, like if it's in the really extreme version, you could attract stalkers, you could attract people who are really obsessed with you, and people who like really invade your boundaries. Like, you know, the types of people who are just like always messaging. Do you know what I mean? Even if you don't respond to them, they're like sending you message after message. Like that's very shadow Pluto, okay? Because it's like, why can't you wait for a response? Why does it have to, like, why do you have to send 5,000 messages? Do you know what I mean? Or like people who like blow up your phone when you're not answering them. They're like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Like I've seen people post like things online where they've had like 100 missed calls. Like that's shadow Pluto. And the other person needs to work on that within themselves, right? That whole need to possess and hold on to the other person for dear life. So that's usually the energy that pushes the person away, actually, okay? It's that, you know? So for example, in that moment where that person is going into their trigger of like wanting to know where this person is and blowing up their phone and all these things, like let's say it's two people that are dating, for example. Well, in that particular case, it's like you know, they're acting that way out of fear of losing the person, but then they're actually pushing the person away, which is going to create the outcome anyways. I hope that makes sense. So just a few things that can take place. I am so glad that that resonated, and I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed the videos. Thank you for being here, for being part of the live, for being part of the, yes, for being part of the community. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, I saw somebody else post this, and the person was basically saying like that they wanted to call their community something and like give their community a name. So what do you guys think we should name this community? Let me know, like thoughts, ideas. And even the people who are watching the live replay, if you guys have any ideas what to call this community, like throw them out there. I'm so here for that. Like I love that vibe. Stop, Luna. I was thinking something. I didn't want it to be something that. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys think of something like with astrology in it or something. Yes, our community here. Like, what should we call the community? Astro something. You said, I described your life. Which part described your life? You said, how do you expedite alchemy? That's so true, Pluto and control. So you have to do the self-reflection within the self. Because here's the thing, okay, you guys, and this is connecting back to what I was also saying earlier. The thing is, relationships, all relationships, whether it is romantic, whether it is a friend, whether it is whatever it is, okay, whether it's a business relationship, okay, they are showing you yourself, okay? Everything comes back down to the self. And that's what that video was about. The love dating a narcissist, okay? Not narcissists like IUS, okay? Because it's about the self, okay? And a lot of relationships right now are based in ego, and that's also shadow Pluto, and that's shadow Scorpio, okay? So this is why you'll see people acting these types of ways. Even if they don't have this energy in their chart, it will come up sometimes in a Plutonian dynamic, which is karmic, to clear, okay? Because you can't be in that energy. And the thing is also, as we're like progressing, okay, and as we're going through the high vibrations, again, we're going into a more Aquarian time, which is going to be more detached, which is more healthy, right? Most relationships right now are rooted in attachment, okay? And ego is really what that is. So when I say ego, it's like sometimes people just want the other person to like them, or sometimes it's power and control, okay? Wanting the person to just be around or whatever, right? So these types of things. So you'll see these things play out in like Pluto types of situations. Crown Town, oh my gosh, should we call it like the Crown Town community? The Crown, Astral Angels, oh my gosh, I like that one. Okay, I'm gonna screenshot that. Astro Angels. Okay, I'm gonna leave that out there as an idea, and then maybe I'll do a poll, and then maybe we can all vote and see. So again, people who are watching the live replay, let me know what you guys think. Something like that. Because I don't want to say what I was thinking. I'll just add that as one of the options because I don't want to give you guys ideas. You know what I mean? Like I want you guys to be creative as well. So I don't want to like take it in a certain direction because I want to see what you guys come up with. I hope that makes sense. So Barbara, you guys are so funny. Barbara and Beyond. No, let's not have my name in it. Let's make it like a community type of vibe. You said the part where you push people away, you're not in the moment, but in your head. Yeah, exactly. Because like it's a preoccupied, I guess like if you look at attachment styles, which is a conversation of its own, but I guess that would fall under like the preoccupied energy is really what that is. And again, I'm not a psychologist or anything of that sort. Oh my gosh, Sue, I love that. Yes, I think it was you who came up with that one. Astro Besties. Okay, we have Astral Angels, Astro Besties. What else did you guys say in here? Crown Town, the Crown Town community. You guys are so funny. Oh my gosh, I love it. Let me know what else you guys come up with, okay? I'm loving all of these ideas. I'm just gonna go back up and see what else you guys were saying up here. You said 4th house in Aries. Also, Saturn is placed in the 4th house, but it's in Pisces. You have your Saturn return. Okay, that's intense. The Saturn in the 4th house. I was just thinking about this today because Saturn in the 4th house, you kind of grow up fast from a young age because Saturn in the 4th gives you the undertone of having a Capricorn moon, okay? So that's basically what Saturn in the 4th house is. So yes, you have a Capricorn moon energy, like undertone. Doesn't mean your moon sign changes. You just take on some of these traits. So when it comes to the home and when it comes to the upbringing, it's like the roles could have been reversed with the parents with Saturn in the 4th, or you could have been raised by older parents, or you could have been raised by grandparents. Or for example, you could have taken on a lot of responsibility from a young age, for example. So you could have, let's say, been part of a family business, or let's say you had to take care of the other siblings, like something of the sort, okay? So that's the Saturn in the fourth. So right now with your Saturn return, if it's your first one, it is your first one because it's in Pisces, or unless you're older. I mean, there's also the older Saturn and Pisces individuals, but regardless, okay, going through the Saturn return and the fourth house, it's all these things around the home and, you know, the relationship, maybe even with the mother because it's the fourth house, but it could just be the home or the feminine energy in your life, like that dominant feminine role that you are clearing and working on now during your Saturn return, okay? So you go through Saturn return in the fourth, it also affects your 10th. So sometimes what happens with these people is like their jobs or their work gets affected and it kind of forces you to go back into the home and to clear any sort of karmic things or situations that haven't been addressed, basically, okay? That's Saturn in the fourth house. Now, having the fourth house in Aries is interesting because, you know, there could have been like the head of the household, could have been, let's say, the father. Like it could have been like a masculine energy dominated home, for example, with fourth house in Aries, or because the fourth house could be the mother. Maybe the mother was like this as well. Let's say with the fourth house in Aries, a lot of the time for the person who has fourth house in Aries, and you know, whoever was the head of the household, whether it was the father or the roles were reversed, there's usually friction here or like headbutting for like the throne or for who's going to be the head of the household later on in life. You want to be the head of your household, okay, when you have fourth house in Aries. Also, fourth house in Aries could have been like, you know, trigger warning, violent upbringing or just aggressive upbringing or just like a lot of chaos or like a chaotic upbringing. If it really goes into the extreme version of like that Aries energy, conflict resolution is something that you could be mastering, or like anger management as well with the fourth house in Aries. You said father dominates, suppressed mother. Yes, that's usually that Aries fourth house energy. You said, what happens when a full moon is happening exactly on the vertex point? Like the current transit full moon? Is that what you're asking? Or is it natally in your natal chart? Exactly, right? To give you guys the creative, what's the word? What's that word that I'm looking for? The creative range or the creative, I'm sure you guys know what I'm thinking of. I'm putting the telepathy out there of like the word that I'm looking for, like the creative ability, whatever. Freedom, the creative freedom. There's a word, there's a specific word though, where it's like when people don't influence the direction that the creative is gonna go in. Maybe you guys know what I'm referring to. You said the part, okay, we did that. You said my thoughts on Fortune conjunct Lilith in the third house. Okay, so it's in Aries and it's in the third house. It's interesting because it's like Lilith could be your dark side, your suppressed side, okay, your shadow self as well. With Lilith in Aries and in the third house. Lilith in Aries can sometimes go into, I'm not saying this is you, but sometimes it can be promiscuous, okay? So I will put that out there for Lilith in Aries because that's just Aries sometimes, okay? The energy, and Lilith could be the like the shadow side or the suppressed side. The thing is sometimes because it's the shadow side, you could have like dreams of this. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like your fantasy or, you know, you think of these things. So like even for you, Ezra, I'm kind of seeing, or Urza, I'm kind of seeing that, you know, you could have like a gift or something in terms of like writing these like, maybe even like erotic novels or something to do of the, like something like this, okay? Because it's the third house, right? So there could be something here where it's like the expression of that shadow energy. You could put it toward writing and then you could actually make money off of it, okay? With the fortune being in there as well, okay? So it could be something like this, but you could also integrate, okay? So let's say you integrate the shadow self within the self, okay? Which is Lilith. You want to integrate the shadow. So in that particular case, you could also, let's say, make money through Aries types of things. So it could be you being a leader, you being a manager, you being, let's say, an entrepreneur, for example, an athlete, because it's in the third house. It could be social media, it could be marketing, it could be the written or the spoken word. So it kind of seems like if you integrate the shadow, so there's two pathways here. Either you kind of take the shadow and the expression of this energy is through some sort of writing, for example, okay? And I'm kind of seeing even like a ghostwriter, like someone who, you know, those people who have like a different pen name and these types of things, okay? Or you integrate the shadow, okay, and you go into the other version of the energy because it's a plane of duality at the end of the day, and then you kind of do the other route, okay, where it's like these things could have been holding you back because Lilith and Aries can do anything to get to the top, anything to be number one. They can be ruthless, but it's like maybe, you know, with the desire line to get to the top, you'll have to integrate those aspects of the self to actually get there. I hope that makes sense, okay? You guys are saying creative liberty. No, there's a specific word. I don't know what it is though. It's something, maybe it'll come later. You said, what does it mean if you have a Chiron conjunct Neptune in the A house in Aquarius? Oh, Chiron conjunct Neptune, there could be a lot of escapism taking place here. Definitely try to stay away from substances with that Neptune and the A house, because it's like Chiron is the wounded healer, right? So it's the area that you're healing through in this lifetime. So for you, because it's conjuncting Neptune, like there could be an escapism element connected here of like wanting to escape this world to go into another world, for example. So whether that's just like escaping through imagination or substances, okay? So trying to stay away from that if you can. Being a rebel with a Aquarius in there could be something that is very healing for you, okay? Going against the grain. Also creativity, because Neptune is in there, okay? So let's say channeling the imagination into creativity, for example, could be something that's healing for you with Chiron in there. Anything that's A house-esque could be healing for you. So sex, death, rebirth, joint finances, taxes, and the occult, okay? All these things could be very healing for you, okay? With the Chiron energy in there. So that's basically what it is, okay? With Chiron, you're kind of healing through all these things. You said you're a late bloomer and dating and you want to start in 2025. You have a Pisces Venus in the A house. Any advice? You have nothing in your 5th house. That's so interesting. One of you guys asked me for dating advice on my last live, and then I was thinking to myself, I'm going to throw this idea out there. I was wondering if some of you guys would be interested if I did a Zoom live where we talk about dating. It's a little bit different than what I do, but because one of you guys asked me last time, I was like, it'd be nice to have like a little circle going on during a Zoom live where it's like a select group of people and we talk about dating and like advice and like questions that you guys might have and something of the sort. So let me know if you guys would be interested in something like that. But yes, you said you have Pisces Venus and you have it in the A house. Any advice? You have nothing in your 5th house. You know what's interesting? I'm curious to know. I'm actually curious to know if this is a trend for Pisces Venus. Pisces Venus, Venus in the 12th house, and Venus Neptune aspects, or if you have Pisces in the 5th or the 7th house, if you have Neptune in the 5th or the 7th, these energies, I'm curious to know if these individuals are late bloomers. I'm curious to know because sometimes that energy spends more time dreaming and daydreaming about relationships and not actually being in them. But then you, quote unquote, being a late bloomer is kind of like a protection thing at the same time. Oh, you guys would love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, let's do that in the new year then. We'll do a little Zoom, like, I don't even like meetup. Let's call it like a Zoom meetup, okay? It'll be like a Zoom meetup and we'll talk about dating and these types of things. Okay. That'll be something in the new year. But yes, so any advice, especially as a Pisces Venus, well, you're probably going to see the best in people. So my advice for you would be to spend more time vetting the individuals and, you know, seeing if the person that you're actually seeing is who you want them to be, right? And also like, you know, having your friends maybe meet the individual as well and something of the sort. Because again, Pisces Venus can see people through a rose-colored lens. Do you know what I mean? So you might not see, because you also have Venus in the 8th, so then the person can have a lot of shadows too that comes into your life. So yes. Giving it time where you do start dating someone and really like seeing, is this person who they are presenting themselves as, okay? Because again, Pisces Venus can see the best in people and they can see the potential and they can see, you know, who this person might be versus who they actually are, and also their divine version versus their fragmented version. Because sometimes these energies tap into the divine version of someone, but the person in the physical realm is fragmented, you know what I mean? And like they have shadow traits that, you know, could be siphoning your energy, because that energy could be prone to having their energy siphoned. So it's this basically. So yes, kind of having, and also what I'll say with this energy too, having strong boundaries. So if you could sit down and see what are you looking for in a relationship, like maybe write it down on a piece of paper. What are you looking for? What are your non-negotiables? What do you want? Like these types of things, you know what I mean? So you know exactly what you're looking for when you go into the relationship versus like going with the flow, because that's kind of like Pisces. Oh, we'll go with the flow. We'll go with the flow kind of thing. Maybe that could assist you as well. You know, so you can have the boundaries, because Pisces struggles with boundaries, okay? Especially when you have it in the Venus, especially when it comes to relationships. Oh, you guys are awesome. Okay, yes, we will do like a little Zoom meetup type of thing in the new year, okay? Something of the sort. We'll go offline. I mean, it's not offline. Oh my gosh, that's another thing, okay? The offline, that's something else, okay? Something else happening in the background that I asked you guys about. But yes, we'll do a Zoom thing. And yes, I'll put it out there for you guys and we'll see when I can post it and when we can do it. You said, let's have a Build-A-Bear dating pool for how we build our partner. That would be like a different session. So the meeting we can do, the meeting can be just like dating conversations and advice and tips and these things, and everyone, okay, so everyone will talk kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It'll be like everybody talking type of situation, okay? So there won't be any like being in the corner, you know, like not presenting yourself in the situation, you know what I mean? So everyone will have to say something, okay? It'll be like a conversation. So that'll be that one. And then the building a bear, I mean, that would have to be like something like, I guess, like a workshop where we sit down and we're like, okay, what are you looking for in a partner or whatever? Like that would be something else. I mean, we could talk about that in the Zoom meeting as well, okay? But that kind of seems more like an intention setting type of thing. Okay, you guys, a lot of ideas that we have like in the flow right now. You said, let's see, I'm just going back up. Okay, good. You said you would love that. You said, okay, cool, let's do it. Sounds good. That'll be something in the new year. And then you said, hold on one second. Okay, I keep losing my spot. Okay, Luna, you said, also, did I answer your question about Aries in the 3rd house, North Node, and Libra in the 9th house? No, you didn't miss it. Okay, I'll go back up to see what you guys were saying up there. But Aries, North Node in the 3rd house, and then Libra. Okay, I'm not sure. There's somebody else who had Aries North Node and then Libra South Node, so I'm not sure if that was you, but I did answer that part, so you might want to rewind, or whether it was you or for the other person, that's similar. Okay, so in your case, okay, when I see Aries North Node and Libra South Node, what this usually signifies to me is that this person had a huge focus on relationships in a previous lifetime, okay? Because it's Libra in the South Node. So it's like you could have sacrificed a lot of yourself for relationships in a previous lifetime. Now in this lifetime, okay, you're coming through with the Aries North Node where you're focusing actually on the self. Like that's part of your life purpose, is to focus on the self. So when you have the Libra in the South Node, what can happen is the people like around you, so your relationships, whether it's friends or lovers or partners or business partners, like whoever it is, okay? These people might be actually distracting you, okay? If you're not in alignment with your purpose, they could be pulling you off your path, and they could kind of be there to clear maybe, let's say, certain things with them from previous lifetimes, right? But you're not meant to focus on those people, you're meant to focus on the self. So kind of when you get more in alignment with your purpose, well, at that point in time, these people turn into, like the community around you turns into people who are going to help prop you up into your life purpose, okay? I hope that makes sense. So that's kind of how that works. And then you have the Aries North Node in the 3rd house. So part of your life purpose in this lifetime is to use your throat chakra, okay? Is to speak, is to communicate, is to express. Is the written or the spoken word with Aries in the 3rd house. That's kind of where you're going. So because it's Aries and it's in the 3rd house, maybe you think of something new, for example. Let's say you start some sort of, I don't know, like PR company, for example, with that energy. Or let's say you become a manager in a PR company or in a marketing company. Or let's say journalism, for example, with that energy in there as well. Because Aries is like independent. So Aries isn't going to want to be in a group. Like they'll be in the group, but with the goal in mind of becoming the team lead and the manager and so on and so forth, or doing their own thing altogether, okay? So that's kind of like the vibe here, okay, with that energy. Now the previous lifetime, with the 9th house, you probably accumulated a lot of spiritual knowledge, for example. Maybe like that could also be where your astrology interest comes from, or even let's say, you accumulated a lot of knowledge, let's say in terms of religions and theology and mysticism and all these things, okay? Philosophies, like you could have accumulated that in a previous lifetime. You could also come through in this lifetime with the 3rd house, expressing these bigger concepts, but in a more in a more simple way, okay? I try to stay away from the term watered down, but that's kind of what it is, okay? That's what the 3rd house is. It's to the everyday person, so the everyday person can understand what it is that you're expressing, okay? Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So you were there for that. Exactly, throat chakra. I was thinking that too. You said you're definitely not living in your purpose. Okay, sometimes it's like certain things that take place in your life that are actually encompassed in your life purpose, right? So you'll see sometimes an area that someone struggles in, that's connected to their life purpose. Something that you overcome, that can be connected to your life purpose. Something that you learn, something that you master, something that you have a gift in, right? Because a lot of the time people overlook their gifts because we all think that everybody is like us, right? So it's like you could be gifted in a certain area, but you might not necessarily know that you're gifted. You know what I mean? Because you think everybody's like you, Let's say you're gifted in, drawing or painting or something of that sort. It comes so naturally to you, because that's usually what happens. It comes naturally to you and then you overlook it because for whatever reason, everything down here is like about struggle and things that are harder or whatever, right? But sometimes things that come naturally to you is actually part of your life purpose, right? Because you're gifted in that particular area. Oh, that's an interesting question. You said, what placements do I see a firefighter mainly having? Like they're rising, or I see a lot of the time you'll see Mars in Scorpio. They might have like firefighter vibes or like paramedic, or let's say Mars in Scorpio can also be like the popo, okay? Speaking between the lines. So all these people will have Mars in Scorpio because those people are good in like high pressure types of environments, okay? Or like chaotic types of environments, or even like, let's say Mars Pluto aspects as well. It could be this. That's pretty much it. In terms of the rest of the placements, I'd have to think about it a little bit longer. Okay, I'm just going back up to see who I may have missed. You said you're a Cancer sun, rising, and Venus. In terms of style, you tend to dress in black and red, almost like Venus in Aries or Scorpio, not really Cancerian. Like, is this the Aries influence / first house? You said Cancer sun. Where is the Aries influence? I'm curious to know also, Tracy, do you have aspects to your Venus that are maybe, let's say, Mars or maybe Pluto, for example? Let's say this. Or let's say these aspects to the first house, for example. Let's say you have Pluto aspecting in the first house, or you have Mars aspecting the first house. Let me know if you're still in the room. You said you don't have an 11, 6, or 8 house. Usually that's something you mastered in a previous lifetime. You said you see Pisces as the Police. That's interesting. I wonder why. Aries, yes, I can see Aries in there as well. Aries are fighters too. So maybe even Mars and Aries are like Aries dominant individuals. Yes, they could also be in those roles. Why Pisces though? I'm curious to know why you see Pisces as this. Black and red Scorpio. Yeah, it's usually Scorpio or like Pluto aspects. You said, do I feel as though the rising sign is the energy you rise up into over life? Yeah, sometimes I look at the rising as like also the direction that you're heading in this lifetime. Like, yes, it can be your physical appearance, it can be your first impression, but it's also where you're going as well, okay? So yes, in a way, if you look at that as like rising up, yes, it could be this. You said institutions, jails, hospitals. I mean, that's interesting. I could see that. Even the 12th house, maybe. I just see Pisces more as like a lover. Do you know what I mean? So maybe having a combination in there with other energies. And also sometimes I see Pisces as like not disciplined enough to go into those roles. Do you know what I mean? Unless they have that energy, like unless they have Saturn somewhere in there. Do you know what I mean? Like Pisces is very vast. They're usually a dreamer. So it kind of depends, I guess, what else is going on maybe with the energies. You said, okay, help you with the 12th house and second house energy, born with the second house stellium, and now 12th house stellium and Neptune in the second at the, oh yeah, you always ask me about the galactic center and I'm always like, I'm going to look into it and then I forget about it. I'm going to screenshot that. Okay. You have 12th house and second house energy, born with a second house stellium, and now you have the 12th house stellium and Neptune. Yeah, 12th house kind of goes off into the ethers, and it's interesting because the second house is actually meant to master money, and they're meant to master this earth realm and this earth plane. Okay, so it's interesting because it's like the escapism could be pulling you out of what it is that you're trying to master down here in terms of money and monetary gain. You said since you were 7, you've been dealing with sexual addictions. How do you heal from that and not fall back into it? Okay, so a lot of the time, if you go into hypersexualization, there's something going on with the sacral chakra where it was brought to your awareness at a young age. I will just kind of leave it at that, right? So in a way, you're trying to reclaim your power in that particular area, okay? So it also could have turned into a coping mechanism sometimes for people, right? So sometimes people who go into sexual addictions, okay? I'm not necessarily saying this is you, but in general, you have to look at the sacral chakra, okay? So it's like the sexual energy is in the sacral, and it's like if you go into an overactive sacral chakra, well, what's happening here, okay? Because the sacral chakra emotion, when it's in the shadow, is shame. It could also sometimes be guilt, and it could also be like not enjoying and not, you know, having pleasures in life overall, right? That's kind of what the sacral chakra can kind of translate to as well. So sometimes when people have sexual addictions, for example, a lot of the time I've noticed with them, they could be individuals, because this can also be your emotional center as well. These people may have not learned how to process their emotions, for example, and then it goes into sexual addiction, okay? Or it could be kind of like a band-aid for an emotion, again, coming back to like that emotion that's rooted there. So you have to see and observe in yourself, what emotion do you feel at the point of time that you go into this energy, is basically what that is for all addictions. You have to see what emotion are you trying to mask with the addiction. And again, I am not a psychologist. I always have to give you guys that disclaimer, okay? But you really want to see what is the emotion that's being masked with that particular addiction, is basically what that is, okay? So is it an emotion of, sometimes it's boredom for some people, right? Sometimes, and then eventually it turns into a habit, I find, okay, with some addictive tendencies, okay? But a lot of the time, especially if it's sexual addiction or something of the sort, it's turning into an escapism from something else that you may be feeling, okay? So maybe, you know, for sometimes for some people, You know, there could be an energy of not feeling like, kind of what I'm getting is like not even like being accepted or even seen, or again, it's like the energy of emotions, like not being emotionally validated or not being able to process the emotions, not being able to express. Boom, goes into the addiction. Okay, because it's like the addiction kind of is, if you look at it also, is like it's a pleasure moment, right? But it's like it's covering and masking something else that's going on there, is basically what it is. You said boredom and escapism. Yeah, and then it turns into like, it turns also sometimes into a soothing thing, right? Because there's levels and layers to addictions as well, right? Because it's like, you know, again, anytime you're bored or you have nothing else to do, it like first turns into something that you're doing out of boredom, and then it turns into a habit, and then it turns into a ritual, right? So when you're doing something repetitively, it's an addiction, yes, but then eventually turns into a ritual, and it's also a self-soothing thing, is basically what that is, okay? With all addictions, basically. You said that's what you've learned. Pisces seems like the elevated spiritual soldier type. Interesting. You said, will Pluto and Aquarius transit in the 5th house affect friendships for Libra rising, since it is opposing the 11th? Maybe more so relationships overall, because the 5th house could be love, dating, and relationships. It could create tension maybe in your friendships as well. Also, as a Libra rising, maybe you have the tendency of getting into love triangles, so maybe that's something that you're clearing during this period of time. Or like trio types of friendships that are kind of synonymous to love triangles or something of the sort. You said best way to combat communication struggles, 12th house Gemini. Are the communication issues as a part of a result of it could be, okay, past life trauma. Okay, so this was the question for people who are watching the live replay, okay? Best way to combat communication struggles, 12th house Gemini. Are the communication issues a result of past life trauma? You also have North Node in there as well. It's interesting, Bella, because part of your life purpose is to actually master communication in this lifetime. It's interesting because the 12th house is your unconscious and it's your subconscious, and it could be, again, it could be past life, absolutely. So yes, there could be something here that took place with Gemini where you maybe did speak up, or maybe in a past life people thought that you spoke too much and then you suppressed your throat chakra, or you could have maybe been taken out for speaking, for example, like let's say you spoke too much and said something or spilled the beans in some area or something of the sort. I'm actually even seeing for you, this is really interesting. There's something here that's taking place in a past life for you where you literally spilled the beans. Like you were maybe, I'm kind of seeing those people, like it's a very interesting area, because you know, like those like mansions like back in the day that kind of look like wooden from the inside almost, and I'm actually seeing you operating out of the male energy in that lifetime, and you could have been like an assistant or something of that sort to someone who was in a higher position, like something of the sort, okay? You are around someone wealthy, and in that past life you may have spilled the beans, or you may have said something, or you may have like, because you knew a lot of information, there's something of the sort taking place. So that's kind of what I'm picking up on for you. And maybe you were taken out, or maybe you were fired, like something took place here in a previous lifetime where you said too much. So yes, you're on point with that, basically. To combat this, the only way to combat something is to do that thing. Do you know what I mean? So in this lifetime, it's like slowly starting to speak, because your throat chakra is connected to your solar plexus. That's the way that I see it, because you have to have the confidence in the self to actually speak, okay? Which is the solar plexus. So it's like a chicken and the egg, because it's like you have to speak to see that when you speak something, it will be well received. And then it's like, okay, then the solar plexus builds, right? So it's connected to each other, right? So you have to take that initial step and continuously do it. And then you develop the solar plexus, and then you speak more and more and more and more. And then you develop a healthy throat chakra, basically, okay? Okay, BRB, you guys. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I am back, and the live didn't crash, which is awesome. Okay, I'm going back up to see what else are you guys saying up here. Okay, I'm gonna go way back up here to see what I may have missed. You said Pluto. How about Pluto in the other person's 4/10th house in synastry? Is it in their 4th house or is it in their 10th house? Let me know. Anytime you guys have synastry in the 4th house, usually this person feels like home, okay? And you'll see this, a lot of the time you'll see 4th house synastry, either 4th house synastry, 8th house synastry, 12th house synastry, or 7th house synastry. You'll see this a lot of the time in friends, family, people who feel like home, okay? So when you have that energy, especially if it's in the 4th house, the person might feel like home for you, but also it could be like very intense as well. Okay. Oh my gosh, Sarah, I'm so glad that you like the 12 house videos. Yes, okay, if you guys are new here, check out I have a playlist tab, okay? So under the playlist tab, I have all of the videos divided. This is my Virgo 12 house, okay? All of the videos are divided. I'm so proud of the playlist too, you guys, okay? All of the videos are divided into specific playlists about certain subjects. So I have playlists about everything that I have covered up until this point in time. You guys can select the playlist and find your sign or whatever you're looking for in there, okay? That's the first thing. The next thing that I also wanted to mention is I have two specific playlists. One is for the 12th house / Pisces energy, and then I have another playlist for the 8th house / Scorpio energy, okay? So those two energies get their own special playlist, okay? So if you guys are interested in learning more about those energies, check out those playlists. Then I have a metaphysical playlist as well, okay? If you guys want to learn about metaphysical topics and the way that I see things from a metaphysical perspective. So that's the metaphysical playlist. I also have an entrepreneurship playlist as well, if you guys want to learn things about entrepreneurship. And also, you guys, if you guys want your own natal chart reading, progressed natal chart reading, synastry reading, the information for all of that is going to be on my website underneath the readings tab. You guys can select which reading you guys would like, and you guys can send me an email, okay? Also, one more thing that I want to mention, especially at this point in the live, okay, since you guys are the real ones, okay, out here, and the people who are watching the live replay as well, okay, if you guys wanted to get your own natal chart reading, progressed natal chart reading, or synastry reading, okay, make sure you guys get it now, because in the new year, the prices will be changing, okay? So since you guys are the real ones, I'm letting you guys know that if you guys want the current situation, I'm just going to leave it at that, okay, the way that it is right now, you guys can check out those readings if you wanted to get it, okay, up until this point in time. Otherwise, in the new year, there may be some changes. So that's basically all I have to say about that. Now, you said here you love my videos in the 12th house and communication. You have Neptune in the 3rd and Mercury in the 12th. Okay, so you're super psychic. You're often misunderstood unless you're writing my thoughts. Yeah, so that's psychic. That's psychic energy, Sarah, okay? Neptune in the 3rd and Mercury in the 12th. So you're going to have to see, like, if you feel like you're misunderstood, you'll have to figure out how to express yourself in a way that is clear, concise, and to the point. This energy, Mercury in the 12th and Neptune in the 3rd, can be very flowery, it can be very romantic, it can be very poetic, and that's why it's gifted in that area of, like, let's say, you know, writing a novel, or, you know, like love stories and these things, right? Where, or even poetry, like these types of things, okay? Music, you're gonna be gifted in that area, right? With the everyday type of person, unfortunately, the everyday type of person, I don't know at what grade most people are at, okay, in terms of their comprehension skills, but you will have to kind of bring things down to that basic level if you're trying to express yourself so the everyday person can understand you and make everything clear and concise and to the point, okay? Don't add anything extra when you're trying to explain or express yourself, because then the person won't, like, they won't follow, is basically what that is, because it's a different way of thinking and expressing, and it's more so psychic and psychically inclined is basically what that is. So you want to see what else is going on, because maybe you have other aspects that are taking place in here, and you're probably also super gifted either in the psychic realms or the creativity realms as well, okay? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you love the 12 house videos. That's awesome. Yay, you said you're Virgo 12 house with 4 planets, sun conjunct. Yes, okay, good, I'm glad. Because most people don't understand the 12 house, because you have to be a 12 house person to get the 12 house. Most people, you know, when they talk about the 12th house, they just say all these fear-based things because they don't get the psychic world and they don't get the psychic realms. You have to be psychic to understand these psychic realms, which most people could be, I think, at least, okay? But maybe they can't. Maybe some people are just in a very one-dimensional lifetime, and that just is what it is, right? And that's why different energies resonate with different people. But that's the thing. So the 12th house is psychic, it's intuitive. Yes, it is the collective unconscious. Yes, the collective unconscious is very shadowy and there's a lot of darkness in there. And when you yourself are unaware, okay, you yourself are unaware, you're going to merge to the collective unconscious. So that's why you have to focus on closing your aura and your energetic field and not having too much free time to the point where you are out of body and you're merging to the collective unconscious, because then you start to play out the collective unconscious behaviors is basically what that is with the 12th house, okay? So that's what it is with the 12th house. And also, if you're a 12th house person, try to stay away from substances if you can, because that, again, shoots you out of body more. You want to close up the aura, and that's what the 12th house is prone to, escapism and going into those realms, because it's more interesting and more fun in the psychic realms than it is down here on this earth plane, okay? The earth plane is very monotonous down here. It's very everyday. Like, it's like up until this point in time, it's like, because people do the same thing every day, they're literally in a zombie-like state, right? Because you are going, you know, doing the same thing, you're in the same routine. It's Virgo. That's that Virgo energy. It's the routine, right? So you always want to switch up the vibes and do something different to keep your own energy excited, is really what that is. Exactly. So like when you have the 12th house energy in your chart, it's almost like you are born with not seeing the veil is basically what, like, you see through the veil basically from birth. So it's interesting because it's like you see through it and you see through everything from a young age, and a lot of the time these people get energetically targeted when it comes to their intuition. Okay, so you may have dealt with a lot of gaslighting around you, or people not confirming your, you know, things that you're picking up on or seeing. So that's why a lot of the time the 12th house individuals, right, tend to go into like the super shadow aspects of the 12th house, where it's like, you know, they struggle because, you know, up until this point in time, there hasn't been any guidance for people who are psychic, right? It's awesome we're living during the time that we're living in. And this is thanks to the Pluto in Virgo generation. Shout out to them. Okay, especially there's that one subset that also has Neptune and Uranus. I think one of the energies is also in Virgo, but I can't remember which one now. But there's a specific subset of the Pluto in Virgo generation, okay, that are literally the people who started bringing all these things from the background into the forefront, right? That's when kind of like psychics and mediums started becoming more mainstream, or we had more access to them and these types of things. So it's a wonderful time to be living in if you are a psychic individual, or if you're a medium as well, okay? Or if you're more psychically inclined, or if you're more intuitive, okay? So that's basically what it is. When you're a 12th house person, you see through the veil, and then usually you get energetically targeted from a young age to not see through the veil, or you shut it off, or you don't trust yourself, or you end up in all these like situations. But like that's something that the 12th house also masters, is trusting their own intuition. You said had to be the 70s. It may have been. Hey Sandy, how are you doing? It could have been. Wait, hold on, let me think. It's Pluto in Virgo. I'm trying to think, because some of the 70s individuals could be Gen X. I'd have to double check and see exactly what that subset is of the generation. A lot of these individuals did live through like the whole hippie, like sex, drugs, and rock and roll era. And like I call this generation, when I did my Pluto in Virgo video, I call them the healers, is basically what that is, okay? They are the people who, again, brought a lot of these things from the background to the forefront. You said you have a 12th house stellium. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here, Sandy. Hi. You said you have a 12th house stellium and you were raised in a toxic family. You're a psychic medium. There you go, okay? That's the 12th house energy. You see through the veil is basically what that is. And a lot of the time when you see through people, because the thing is, whether you're, I find this with Scorpios too. Scorpio is more so because they stink, right? They have the stinger. So you'll see this come up with Scorpios sometimes in an argument too. Like they'll bring the person's shadows to the surface is basically what that is, okay? But regardless, like, whether it's Scorpio, whether it's 12th house, like these individuals are going to see what the other person is doing, right? So they'll see the reason behind why that person is doing what they're doing, okay? But then that person, even if you say it to them, they go into like defense, right? And then all of like the projection energy comes at you, and all of like it turns into this whole other conversation or argument or whatever it is, okay? So that's basically what it is. So usually it's like that person, it's the ego, right? Like the ego is like the safety net, or like the security energy, right? It's the mask that most people are in that the 12th house person can see through, right? So it's like when you trigger a person's ego or identity and they're not ready for that information, they're going to attack you, is basically what that is. So that's something that 12th house people deal with. Basically, scapegoat is really what that is, being scapegoated. You said Scorpio 12th house here. Oh my gosh, for you it's intense probably. You said you don't have anything in your 12th house. That's okay. It's okay if you don't have anything in your 12th house, but also you can have a 12th house sign, okay? So everyone has a sign occupying their 12th house, which is still going to tell you about your unconscious and your subconscious, okay? You said, imagine living in the past cultures. You said, imagine living in the past in cultures where they would teach spirituality and how to cross when time comes. Exactly. The 12th house people probably thrived. That's exactly what it is, okay? And that's what it was like back in the day. And unfortunately, we've gone so much into the material realm right now and so much into shadow masculine energy is basically what that is. And that's the root of everything, in my opinion, okay? The root of everything. And I have a video on this too in the metaphysical playlist. I talk about how people's connection to their heart space and their feelings is their connection to God, is basically what that is. We wouldn't have so many energy vampires roaming around the streets out here if they were able to connect to their heart space, but they're not. So then they're stuck in their lower chakras and they can't connect to the higher realm. So then they can't manifest for themselves. So then they find like an open energy, wounded, maybe 12th house person, or someone who has a lot of manifestation potential, but is not in their power or doesn't know their power. And then they latch onto that person and then they use that person as a battery pack, is basically what that is. So when you're a 12th house person, you have to master boundaries. You have to master your sense of self. You have to master who you are, okay? And your own gifts and all these things. You have to be rooted and grounded in your person. Otherwise, you're being used as a battery pack for another person, is basically what that is. Usually a person who can't operate in those higher realms, which is so unfortunate. You said you were so triggering, even adults for me too. Yeah, that's the thing. That's exactly what it is, because it's a mirror. It's an energetic mirror, and you can even look at this These days, unfortunately, like the internet is just what it is. People take a word and then they run with it, and then the word gets butchered and then it loses its meaning, right? But that's also what an empath is, okay? An empath energetically is someone who mirrors energy back to you, but they also mirror it in love, is basically what it is, right? Energetically. So it's like, as time goes on, especially when you're younger, like you might not know how to, like, let's say, give the delivery of this information, right? So as you become older, it's like you still will deliver the information, right? But you might not necessarily say it right away to a person because you'll be able maybe better to read them, for example, so they don't come at you energetically, or you'll be able to see what's going on with them, right? But when you don't know what's going on, you just say things, and then that person's ego comes at you, right? Their demon is basically what it is, a demon that's living inside of them. You said, absolutely, you were told by your spirit team that mediumship would have never, exactly, you said that it would have never opened up to you if you had not opened up your boundaries game, because then your energy is being siphoned. This is what I talk about, okay? Even in my metaphysical playlist, I talk about the energy siphoning down here on this earth plane, overall energetic siphoning. Then there's sexual energy siphoning down here. So when you don't have boundaries, you're being energetically drained, okay? And then you get drained by other people. And most people, unfortunately, down here are distractions, especially if they're wounded and they're not healed, okay? Which is a struggle. That's another thing that the 12th house person has to overcome. They have to overcome, you know, that whole aspect of wanting to help, let's say, one person, you know what I mean, or heal that person, especially if there's someone who's super wounded, because it's like a moth to a flame. The energies kind of get like pulled toward each other, right? But sometimes when someone is super unhealed, they're operating out of their lower chakras, you can't do anything, right? That person has to make the decision for themselves that they want to change and heal and grow and evolve. And if they don't, it all turns into like this whole projection thing, and you're just wasting your time and you're wasting your energy at that point in time when you could be using that for something else, right? So that's another thing, or wound or soft spot, whatever way, shape, or form you guys want to look at it. That's something that 12 house people also have to master, right? You know, when you, let's say, feel bad, or you feel a lot of empathy for a person, or you understand where they're coming from and these types of things. But again, if they're not ready to evolve, what can you do, right? It's like you're kind of putting your energy into a bottomless pit. And especially if they're in their lower chakras, they're using that for something completely different. Like they're using that to manifest their own little agenda for themselves, basically. You said traits of a Gemini, good and bad ones. Okay, Gemini energy. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, okay? It is mutable, Gemini, and it is air, okay? So Gemini is mutable air and it's ruled by Mercury. So the good things about Gemini is they're very smart, they're very flexible, they're gonna have a lot of friends, they're communicators when they're in the divine version, okay? So we're talking about the divine version here. They're good communicators, they can have a lot of friends, they're gonna know a lot of people, you know, they might have the gift of gab, okay? Talking and chatting, and they can be very funny, they can be very intellectual. That is the divine version of Gemini, okay? Also, when they are in their divine version, they can be multitaskers, okay? But it can be a challenge to get there. When they're in the shadow aspect of the self, they can be flaky. They can start one thing in the morning, forget about it by the evening. This thing is interesting, this thing is not interesting anymore. 50 tabs open on their computer, okay? Started with this, you know, researching, let's say you sat down and you have strong Gemini in your chart. Let's say you were like, okay, I want to bake cookies today. And then you're gonna sit down and you're gonna be like, okay, let me look up the recipe to bake cookies. You look it up, okay? And then you're like, oh, okay, wait, hold on a second. What is the origin of chocolate? And then you look up the origin of chocolate, and then you find the person who discovered chocolate, and then you look that person up, or wherever. You look at the geography of where the chocolate can be found, and then you look at that place, and you're like, oh my God, this place flag looks very similar to what's that other place that the flag looks like? Then you go to that place, and that's Gemini. And then by the time you're done this whole journey and this whole quest, it is 10 p.m. You didn't make the cookies, and it's now time to go to bed, okay? That's the shadow of Gemini. So you have to figure out how to take all of this, okay, energy, and focus it sometimes on one thing. Try to get that thing to maybe 80 or 90%, okay? And then when it's at 80 and 90%, then you start something new. So that's where the multitasking gift comes in, okay? Also, the shadow of Gemini is they can struggle with communication. They can struggle with expression. They can sometimes lie, okay? Sometimes Gemini can lie. And you know how people say that Geminis have multiple personalities? So that's the mutable energy or nature of Gemini, is the whole concept of like when they're younger, okay, especially if it's in like the personal planets, what happens with them is they get used to adapting to a lot of people. So there's usually, especially if it's in the sun or it's in the moon, you know, the home is like a revolving door, a lot of people coming and going. So you get used to adapting to a lot of personalities. So it's like they don't always show their full self, right? Because they're this way with Bob, and this way with Billy, and that way with Monica, right? That's Gemini. So that's Gemini, and they can also be indecisive. I find with Geminis, a lot of people don't talk about that, but sometimes I find Geminis more indecisive than Libras as well. So it depends, you know, where are you at on this journey? Just like all the signs, there's a light side and a shadow side. There you go. You said I explained you so well. That's exactly what it is, okay? So for the mutable energies, I would say the biggest struggle for them is the mutable nature of the energy, okay? Because it's like this, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and this is fun, and I want to go here, and I want to go there. Because Gemini also deals with short distance travel, and again, because it's not interesting, they can struggle in school because they can be very smart, and this is how Gemini knows a lot of things. And going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the live, this is why Gemini can also be very good at like trivia, right? Because with Gemini, they say it's the jack of all trades, right, but the master in none. Okay, doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that the energy can't ever be a master in something. This is just your area of growth, okay? And trying to learn how to focus on something to become the master at that thing is basically what that is, okay? Because the mutable nature thinks all these things are interesting and this is boring, and sometimes they just forget. I've noticed with Gemini energy as well. Like sometimes they'll just forget what they were even doing or what they even said. Even like, let's say trying to make a plan with a Gemini individual, like good luck, honestly, because that mutable energy. I do believe in degree theory, but the one of from Nikola Stojanovic. That's another thing too. You might try to master everything, but it's like at the same time, if you're trying to do everything, you'll get nothing done, right? So what you want to do, because you want to learn how to take your energy and how can you use the energy to your benefit down here on this earth plane. That's what you want to do, okay? So with Gemini energy, it's like down here, the things that thrive are, things that are discipline energy, and you are working towards something, and practice makes perfect, and hard work and effort and all these things, right? Gemini can spend they can waste a lot of time. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, and then you drop this project. I want to do this. Like I met a person when I went to like a fair once, and this person was telling me how they were, what did they do? I can't remember everything, but they had a lot of different jobs, okay? They did something in the energy world, and they did like tooth gems, like sticking tooth gems for people, and then they did this other thing. They did like 5 or 6 different jobs, and I'm like, what is your natal chart? Because I'm like, I feel like you have Gemini in there, and I was like, I feel like you're a Gemini midheaven. Lo and behold, this person was Gemini midheaven, right? So it's like you can do multiple things, but you just have to master it, right? Because it's like, let's say you're interested in doing something, you don't master it, how can you do that thing? Do you know what I mean? So it's this. Yeah, Esperanza, you said also we often talk about one energy. We have to, exactly, you want to look at all of the energies in the natal chart. Because for example, actually I met someone once who was all mutable. Like they had a lot of Gemini energy in there, and I literally saw, because this person also like did substances and all these things, and then you're fragmented and whatever, and you can literally see the different alters coming in and out of the person, like the different personalities. Like in that case, I saw it taking place. You know what I mean? So it depends what's going on, basically, and what's going on in the chart, and do you have something to ground that? Okay, Gemini needs grounding. Otherwise, they're like up here in their own way, right? They're more mental. Do you know what I mean? So they're in the crown chakra in terms of ideas and all these things, and they can also have contradicting beliefs, what I've noticed too. So because they're mutable too, let's say like a Mercury and Gemini, I've noticed with them, they can have contradicting beliefs existing within them at the same time. And it's interesting because it's one of the earlier signs, so it's like a younger energy too. So it's like they can believe this is true, and then they can also believe this is true, and then they can come at an internal conflict sometimes too. So that's another thing I've noticed with them. Are you talking about Black Moon Lilith? You said Aries in your 10th house, your Venus squares your moon. You have Mars in Leo in the 2nd house squaring your moon, and Pluto, also Scorpio, sits in your 5th house. And you said, is that, okay, well, there you go. Because you said you were wearing the black and the red all the time. There you go, okay? It's those Pluto aspects. You said you have Scorpio in the 5th house. Yeah, the 5th house of self-expression. There you go. That makes so much sense. Actually, that's really interesting. I knew someone who had Scorpio in the 5th house, and this person wore black all the time. That was like the only thing that they wore. And they had Scorpio in their 5th house, because 5th house is the self-expression, and it's that energy. So there you go. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Sandy. I am absolutely. You said your moon sign is what made you believe in astrology, Gemini moon. They're going to have a lot of friends, though. Raju, what you can do is you can go on any sort of astrology website on Google, type in birth chart, and put in your birth chart information, and then it'll come out. It'll tell you what the energies are in your chart. You said we are all about our mundane lives while this energetic drama is playing. Exactly. Hey, Angela, how are you doing? You said you've been trying to manifest your dream life to no avail. It feels like nothing's working. How do you make it work for you? Honestly, you have to get in tune with your heart space is basically what that is. Because as soon as you're in tune with what you're meant to be doing in this lifetime, everything kind of falls into place. Otherwise, you're kind of living in like a resistance energy. That's why astrology is good, because it will tell you, okay? It will tell you your gifts, basically. You said it's the same as children have. They're fresh off the boat from God, the creator. Exactly. Hence, issues with abuse and open aura, empaths, and children. Children are very energetically open. They're actually very psychic, and that's usually when it first gets shut off, their psychic gifts and abilities. So, yay, I'm so glad that the 12 House Stellium video resonated. So if you, like these days, like, you know, people who are more psychically inclined or they're more open to the psychic world, like you'll be able to nurture that within children. Is basically what that is. Because like now what a lot of people are doing is they're trying to remember their psychic gifts that got shut off by the home or by society or by teachers, whoever, okay? So that's what people are, that's what awakening is. You're like trying to remember that, right? But in the future, when people are just born and it's like a different way of looking at things, right? They're not gonna have to remember it. They're gonna be encompassed in that energy already, basically. Like I met another person also, I met another individual. This person was very young, like maybe early 20s, and their mom was a numerologist, I don't know, whatever. Their mom did numerology, okay? So the mom did numerology, and this individual was early 20s, and this person was already like on their path because of the mom. Do you know what I mean? And it's this. So I don't do numerology for other people. Like I know the basic numerology, like I'll know the day number, I know the life path number, but I don't study it. Do you know what I mean? Like I just know it very generally. Like even when I do my readings, I'll tell you guys about your day number, your life path number, just very briefly. I always tell you guys, if you're interested, you guys can look into it for yourself. And the thing is also with numerology is like everyone has a different code, right? So for example, like I have my own numbers that are my numbers, right? And then there's, let's say you, like you're born on a certain day and that's your number, right? So it's like sometimes to amplify the vibration, you can do things on your number day. Do you know what I mean? Like let's say you were born on the 5th. That's your number day, right? So to amplify that vibration, you can do things on the 5th, right? Actually, it's so interesting because I first learned about numerology from a family member way back in the day who actually added another letter into their name to change their like destiny, okay? So you can play around with that too. You said you've been trying to learn astrology for a long time and it's too difficult and it's confusing you. Can I help you like birth chart, cartography? Where's the best place to move? Yeah, so if you want to see where's the best place for you to move, you can look at astrocartography. And also for astrocartography, you can look that up online. It'll tell you like the cities and the energies based off of your own natal chart. In terms of learning astrology, you know, you really have to have an interest for it. I will say that much because yes, there's a lot to learn. So it depends how you learn, okay? Because for me, the way I learned it was I connect the energy to people, okay? So I would be like, when I was learning, how is this energy being expressed in this person, whether the person is in my life or let's say it was a public figure, for example, right? So that's how I would learn things is basically what that is. So it depends how you learn. I don't have a Pluto transits list, but what you can do, Terry, is you can go under my natal Pluto video. So I have videos about like Pluto in your 4th house, Pluto in your 5th house, and you can take what's in that video and apply it to the transits as well, okay? You said, should you look more into Venus, Scorpio aesthetics to get more inspiration? I mean, if that's something that resonates with you, Tracy, why not? I'm sure you can find information online. Hey, Ari, I'm doing well. How are you doing? You said moon trine, sun, Saturn, Mercury, and Pluto. That's a lot of karma with the home and the mother, okay? When I see a lot of aspects to the sun or the moon, that's a lot of karma. The sun is going to be a lot of karma with the father that you're clearing. That's the way that I see it. Or masculines in your life because that's the energy that you're pulling through. Moon is a lot of karma that you're clearing with the mother or the home or the dominant feminine role in your life, and then feminines in your life, and then your own internal feminine energy within, okay? That's the way that I see it. I don't do matrix charts, not right now. Yeah, exactly. You can do numerology for where you live. You can do numerology for your license plate. You can do it for your phone number. You can do it for your credit card number. So it's basically that. I had a friend, okay, so interesting. I'm giving you guys so many examples today, but I had a friend who did not like their credit card number, so they asked for another one, basically. So you said, can I discuss even more about psychic if gaslighting? You don't remember this in your life, but wonder what it might look like from the first 2 caregivers. Yeah, So the gaslighting, I know these days gaslighting is kind of like a very negative shadow term. Unfortunately, there's no other term for it. But basically, like, if you look at it, if there was another word for it, what it would mean is like your internal reality, what you're feeling is not being validated by your external reality. And that's how a lot of the time the psychic gifts and abilities come online. I actually have a video on this under my metaphysical playlist as well, okay? The connection between trauma, psychic gifts and abilities, spiritual awakening, and cognitive dissonance, right? So you're going into this cognitive dissonance state, right? Because it's like what you're feeling inside isn't being matched up with, let's say, what somebody is saying to you or telling you, right? So a lot of the time, if you have that strong vibe inside, right, what you're picking up on, that's how the psychic gift and ability comes online. So the gaslighting can start with like, it could be something as small as, and I wish there was another word for this because gaslighting has such like a negative connotation to it, but it could be something as small as like, let's say, you know, when you're a kid, you know, go to the parent and you're like, oh, I see something in my closet or whatever, okay? There's something in the closet, and the parent can be like, no, there isn't. There it is. That's where it starts. You know what I mean? And you're like, wait, but I saw something, right? They tell you, no, you didn't see anything. That's not real. There it is. It goes into your subconscious, right? So it's not in your subconscious that you don't believe what you saw is real. Do you know what I mean? So it's things like this, right? Sometimes I wonder when kids have imaginary friends, are they actually seeing somebody? Probably, right? So it's things like this. So it starts off like that, and then it turns into society, right? Not validating what you are picking up on. So it's things like this. And again, it's not like anybody has bad intentions. And this is what I mean by like, you know, maybe finding another term for it, but it's just like, that's what it is. So it starts with that, and then it can escalate, right? So like later on when you're older, right? And let's say you're in an argument and you're picking up on why somebody within your immediate environment is saying something to you, right? And you're gonna be like, you're saying it because of this. They're gonna be like, no, I'm not. That's when it kind of goes into the extreme version. Do you know what I mean? So there's like levels to it, but that's kind of how it gets shut off from a young age, I find. You're welcome. I'm so glad that that resonates. You said that changes. You're definitely going to check the numerology. Yeah, exactly. It changes a lot of things because it's a vibration. So that's another thing that I noticed. If you guys notice that a lot of public figures go through a name change, or they add an extra letter in there, or they have like the middle initial or whatever, right? That changes the vibration of things. So it's like anytime someone says your name, they are putting that vibration out there for you. So a lot of the time what I've noticed, and this is just from my own observations, just from thinking, okay, is that a lot of these public figures, they try to change their fate or their reality, first of all, by changing their name, yes, but it's something that they do in their religion. Also, it's like a form of baptism for them, because it's like, it's also like a shield energetically when you change your name, right? And you'll see this because I realized that because in baptism sometimes, in some religions, they have to pick another name, okay? And when you go through the baptism, right, you're picking another name, and then I realized the whole reason you're picking another name is so the energy isn't directed toward you anymore. It's like now being, like there's like this energetic diversion that takes place, right? So it's like you get protected energetically in a way. I hope that that makes sense, right? If you have another name, right? Like in terms of the baptism. So then I realized these people who are public figures, for them, like a form of a baptism, okay, quote unquote, in their own religion and whatever way they do things is by picking a new name. They pick a new identity, and then the public can't connect to you, right? They are connecting to your name, but this new name is a different identity, right? And identity, the word identity has the word entity in it, right? So it's this other entity that people are feeding, right? So that's how you can manipulate things as well. That's why people sometimes have pen names and so on and so forth. Sometimes people do this unconsciously if they're a little bit more spiritually advanced, okay? But that's kind of what's going on there. Oh my gosh, you guys are so funny. You said before, I have said that horoscope tarot is merely a way for people to comprehend the greater universal truth. Exactly, of metaphysics. It's a confirmation. It'll confirm what you're picking up on. Oh, thank you for being here, Esperanza. Thank you. Yes, Merry Christmas to all, and Merry Christmas Eve for all of those who are celebrating, and happy holidays, happy holiday week. If you guys are off this week, and Boxing Day. I'm going to start listing out all the holidays now. But yes, happy everything to you guys. You said, yeah, exactly. So, okay, all these things, I have a video on this on here as well under my metaphysical playlist, okay? All of these things are tools, okay? They are divination tools, and you use these things to confirm basically your own insight is basically what that is, okay? Whether that's tarot, whether that's oracle cards, whether that's numerology, whether that is astrology, right? But with numerology and astrology, what I will say, there's something a little bit deeper here, because with this, you can actually start to use it to your advantage to actually have the energies work in your favor. I hope that makes sense, okay? Because there's something here that's taking place with numerology and astrology that's actually operating this earth plane for this point in time, okay? Until we break out of the energetic structure that we are currently under. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? Oh, there it is. You're a life path 5. You said you're born on the 22nd, master builder. Yes. You said, should you focus on 5 or 22? You said you did have things on your wall when you were a kid. There you go. You saw a ghost, but indeed, exactly. The older you get, it gets more closed off. That's exactly what it is. Exactly. Okay, 5 and 22, you're probably good looking with the 5. So you want to be out there engaging with people and kind of using that and taking that to your advantage with the 5 life path, okay? And then 22, you're building something, okay? Is basically what that is. So do I have friends that mostly work in my industry? My friends are honestly from a range. I am a Libra at the end of the day. So I'm actually friends with a lot of variety, like various people. Like obviously my closest friends are similar to me. So they're all psychic, they're intuitive, they are in the spiritual and metaphysical world. Okay, we all believe in the same things, right? But then I'm friends with a lot of other people as well. Like I'm friends with everyday people, people who have different belief systems. Do you know what I mean? So yes, that's what it is. It's a Libra energy within. And I'm always talking to someone, like I'm always going somewhere and talking to people, but yes, it's a range. Yes, I know about crystals. I actually sleep with selenite underneath my pillow. So it's so interesting because one time I was like, oh, I don't use crystals anymore. But then I completely forgot because it became such a normal thing for me that I completely forgot that I actually sleep with selenite under my pillow. And on my nightstand beside my bed, I have amethyst as well, okay, which is supposed to enhance your dreaming state as well, okay? So that's basically that. So yes, I do believe in crystals. Now the thing is, it's hard to say. I'm not sure about that one, Clarice, like the blue kyanite. I'm sure because it's blue, it deals with the throat chakra, I'm guessing, maybe, or like the higher heart, okay, with the blue. But yes, I was super into them. I had a lot of the little ones, but I noticed that, I don't know, like I feel like I know they also have frequencies and their own frequency, but I feel like you feel them more if they're bigger, if that makes sense. So right now I just have and actually I also have another one. I have an arrowhead, but I can't remember which one it is. I think it's onyx. I think it's an onyx arrowhead as well that I have, that I carry with me. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank you, Brianna. I'm so glad that they resonate. Yay. That's good. Thank you guys for being a part of the channel, for being likes, like for the likes and the shares and the subscribes. Let's see. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. That's why it's the highest frequency. Esperance, I know you've left. Maybe you're going to be watching the live replay. But anyways, for you guys also in the chat right now, basically what Esperanza said was, you wonder if we remember things, never learning new things. That's something that I thought about before. And then you said, truth feels like something that we already knew / know. And that's why truth is the highest vibration. And that's why truth always resonates with people, because it's a vibrational thing, because we all know at our core, except for whatever reason, the memory gets wiped when we come down here, which is so annoying, okay? So the question always is that for good reasons or is that for nefarious reasons? You said you have Pluto transits in the 11th house. Pluto is stationed in your 6th house. Can I tell you what that means? Is it about disease? Not necessarily always disease. It could just be health overall with Pluto. And sometimes the 6th house can be like very particular about their diet too. It could be transformation through, like, let's say going to the gym or having a healthy diet. Like, it doesn't always have to be disease. You'd have to look at the rest of the natal chart to see what's going on in there. Oh, nice. You're a Leo sun and you have Venus in the 12th house. Let's see, you said you've been reading about it. So a little story. You were at a store and this person was selling and he had a bunch of crystals and yeah, exactly. That's how I bought my first pendulum. That's how I bought my first pendulum, you guys. I went into a crystal shop and I was looking at the pendulums, and this is like when I was just getting in tune, like with my psychic gifts and abilities, and I was looking at the pendulums, and at the back, literally one of the ones at the back just dropped and fell. And I was like, that's mine. And even the worker there was like, that one is yours. And I still have it to this day, that pendulum. I have another one too that somebody else gifted me. But yes, rarely do I use it. I've actually taught, you know what's so interesting? I have younger family members as well. And when they were kids, and this is how you plant seeds, okay? when they were kids, I was just like showing them like for fun. Okay. I was showing them my crystals, and then I showed them the pendulum, and I was like, okay, I drew on a piece of paper. I was like, this means yes, and this means no. And I was like, look, you guys, you can ask it questions. And I was like explaining to them. They were very young. I don't remember how old they were like at that time, but they were super young. And then I was like, okay, when it goes like this, it's saying yes. When it goes like this, it's saying no. And it was so interesting because recently when I saw them, they found the pendulum, and it's so wild. And this is why like people need to be open with children, because like they remember these types of things. So when they saw the pendulums, they literally like were doing it for themselves. They were like writing it on the paper and like asking questions. And then I told them, since I realized that they were doing it for themselves, I'm like, okay, you have to learn how to open the session and how to close the session properly. So I thought that was so interesting. And their questions were so cute, the questions they were asking. You said, would watching videos on Venus and Scorpio? Yeah, you could watch videos on Venus and Scorpio. You can Google it. You can look it up to see like what the aesthetic is for that energy. Although it kind of sounds like you already have it down. I use Placidus when I'm doing my readings. If you guys want your own natal chart reading, if you want your own synastry reading, if you want your own progressed natal chart reading, check it out on my website. It's going to be in the description box below. Okay. And you guys can select which reading you guys would like. It's going to be a window that pops up, okay? And it'll be an email. You guys send me an email and we'll go from there. You're welcome. What's your question concerned if you're still in the room? Especially, yeah, Claris, if it's calling you, I mean, go for it. That's a really good question too. I'm gonna screenshot that, and that would be a good like video series. Or you have me squaring 5 planets plus Chiron. That's a lot of karma to clear with a home, with a family. With a feminine, with a mother. I'm just going up to see. Oh, that's awesome, Concern. Thank you. You said before you knew about astrology, you were always attracted to Virgos. There you go, because of your Venus and Mars in Virgo. Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for being here, for your likes, for your shares, for your subscribes, for being a part of the channel. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day or evening. Merry Christmas to all those celebrating. Enjoy the rest of the holiday week as well. Let me just answer your question concerned. You said, being psychic, you have knowledge that gives you faith in the other world. Sometimes you get sad wondering if this isn't true and are grasping for meaning in a meaningless world. I mean, here's the thing, it's faith-based. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day. So that's all that it is. And it's like, you'll only know it if you experience it. And here's the thing, if things give people hope, like why not hold on to those things? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like those things are the things that keep people going. And the only way that we're going to know is when we cross out of the earth plane. Like, that's the only time that we will know. You're welcome. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. Once again, thank you for your likes, shares, and subscribes, and your questions as well. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your evening or day, wherever you guys are.